we heard that sentiment kind of all week. I mean, obviously you're here to prove that you're able to prepare a dog team and train a dog team better than anybody else in the world. But still, there's this entity out there that it's not just how good I can do it. I still have to beat Lance Mackey if you're going to win this thing.
Yeah,
he has solidified his spot in this race.
But he has. But there's always been that. Years ago, if you wanted to win this event, not only did you have to win the event, you had to beat Susan Butcher.
Yeah.
Not only did you have to win this event, you had to meet Rick Swenson. And Mackey said himself, to win the Iditarod, I may not just have to beat everybody else, but I always know I have to beat Jeff King.
Yeah.
Well, now that torch has been passed, and it's been passed, and the volume's been turned up, because he stands as such a, 4 in a row, everybody's frustrated by the things he pulls. He's not a conventional musher, which is the beauty of this. He's the Robin Hood, out sneaking through the forest, pulling the unconventional. But yes, to win this, no matter how good your team is, no matter all your other competitors that are serious, even if Lance falls apart at some point, you know that the main thing you have to do is overcome Lance Mackey.
Yeah, and we should talk about it now. Jeff King is retired. He's a major player in this now for 20 years. Your odds of winning have now gone up that Jeff is out. Even for Lance Mackey, his odds of winning have increased because Jeff King is retired.
Yeah, I think it'd be unfair not to say that, because there's no doubt. Anybody that follows this event, who has Lance battled with up the coast the last few years? It's been Jeff. Yeah. There's been Hans, and there's Hans Gott, and there's been others, but Jeff has always been there. He set the tone of the race. But I would say there's no such thing, nature doesn't like a vacuum, and you've got all these highly competitive new mushers coming in. So as it goes, there's still a whole bunch of people that you've got to move in and beat as well.
Yeah, and trail conditions. We talked a little bit about it. It's easy to sit here today and kind of project what the trail conditions are like. And it's hard to do that. The one thing for sure, when we get to know them, we're going to be able to look back on the 1,150 miles and say that trail conditions certainly played a role in this championship and whoever wins it. It's hard to project, but sitting here today, it is on the minds of a lot of mushers, including Iditarod.
Number 11.
I'm really relieved. The fact that we've got snow from the Post River to Egypt Mountain and then on across towards the Farewell Lakes, that just makes my day, And that's a part of the trail that's given me a lot of fatigue issues in the past, and yeah, it's not going to be any, piece of cake, Disneyland ride, but it's going to be good, and one of the better years, so I'm feeling really optimistic about what we can do with this trail this year.
Way until we get the coast. A lot of snow, so makes the trail softer. You're not going to hit things that are going to hurt as badly, but it could mean harder work for the teams, right?
It could be, but as a musher, the things I think about with a lot of snow is it's going to be harder to pass because they're going to be running in these troughs, and they just have to adapt to that condition.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at the ceremonial start of Iditarod 39. We'll take a first time out and we'll come back. We're getting very close. Iditarod will be our first musher to leave. Come on back.
We'll be back with more live coverage of the 2011 Iditarod Trail Sled Dog Race from 4th Avenue in Anchorage, Alaska, right after these messages.
The Iditarod Insider is your only source for the most in-depth coverage of the last great race on Earth. Live streaming coverage of the start, restart, and finish.
Wow! 4 in a row!
Up-to-the-minute Insider video-on-demand coverage of the entire Iditarod field. Exclusive real-time tracking and mapping of each team on the trail with the Insider's GPS tracker. There's only one source, one place to get reliable, concise, real-time coverage of the 2011 Iditarod. The Insider, only at Iditarod.com.
Does Anchorage Chrysler Dodge Jeep have the best prices in Alaska? Does Iditarod champion Lance Mackey get excited when he wins a new Ram 4x4?
Yeah! Oh, the truck! They're going to look good in silver. Black, blue, I don't care if it's hot pink, I'd be proud to drive it.
The winner's truck, Ram 4x4. Idita sale priced at just $24,720. The official Iditarod trail sale, only at Anchorage Chrysler Dodge Jeep.
Mushing and mining.
we share a rich Alaskan heritage of challenge and reward. Donlin Creek is proud to sponsor and celebrate the 2011 Iditarod Sled Dog Race. And proud to be part of Alaska's modern mining industry and its contributions to the economy of Alaska.
Are you ready to cut the ribbon? Let's start Iditarod 39.
And the ribbon cutting ceremony now. And that really the official start. I mean, that means the morning's here, Bruce, and the anxiety now will start to build as these teams get closer to this start line. And I know over the years you were in this event back in the day when they would do both the start and the restart out in Wasilla in the very same day. Very different.
Yeah, it is different. And of course, in the first races, they ran from Anchorage and they never stopped. They ran out through Eagle River. They ran across the Knik Bridge. You know, the Iditarod's historical film, The Insider, did on Purely Alaskan. They show that they would leave here and they'd run out to wear off the runners before they even got there. But it took a lot of pressure off, and now we have the Iditarider program, and it's more of a relaxing celebration day of the Iditarod, enjoying the race, and it just took the pressure off, because it used to be the start and then a truck race out to the restart. Now we don't have that truck race out there. So.
Tom Bush, the honorary musher for 2011 in the Iditarod, the founder of KNOM. He passed away this year. Here's more about Tom.
KNOM Radio opened a window from the Iditarod Trail to the rest of the world. Tom will certainly be missed. We lost him in November at the age of 65, but the legacy that Tom Bush left will last as long as the last great race on Earth.
Skip it. Chad says skip it.
Okay, we'll try to get back to that in a little bit. But Tom Bush, really a pioneer in the history of the Iditarod. I mean, he was one of the first journalists to cover this race back in 1973, and KNOM been around, I think, even earlier than that. So he will be honored here this afternoon.
You know, the thing that he was most known for is that it's like those 1950s, 1960s guys that covered a great baseball game. You know, they're known for that. He was the voice that covered the close finish between Rick Swenson and Dick Mackey, correct?
Yeah, 1978.
And that is just the classic Iditarod picture, the classic call of after 1,000 miles, it's down to 1 second, and he never thought he'd be covering that. So that's really going to be to me, as a fan and a participant, that's kind of the apex moment where he was involved in this event.
His voice will be synonymous with maybe the greatest moment in the history of this race forever. There'll never be another finish like that, never one so close. I mean, 1 second between those two great champions and two of the most important people in the history of this event when you talk about Rick Swenson and Dick Mackey. And Tom was there. Tom was there for the call, and what a great moment in his life. And he will certainly be missed. And his wife will be in the sled, as we said, Tom, the honorary musher for 2011, and deservedly so. This is about a celebration of the event, pageantry. These time not computed into the overall race. It means nothing as far as who will win this race. It is a great time for the mushers kind of to not only give back but to receive. I mean, these people, there'll be thousands of people lining this street this afternoon, not just celebrating the mushers but celebrating the sport. It's a great day for Iditarod.
Yeah, you know, the first time I ran this, I'd run a lot of other races, and what I never had seen before that was different in Iditarod was when you went out this starting chute, that at that time we ran to Eagle River, 20-some miles, 26, 28 miles, and it is lined with people the entire way. And when you go down the street here, and right now the street's packed on both sides, looking down as far as I can see, it will be like that the whole way, and people will be handing mushers cookies they've made, and hot dogs will be barbecues. It is just a celebration day, and it's also, it is a day to fans to give to the mushers, but it's also a day for the mushers to give something back to the fans, just a relaxed, friendly atmosphere and wave. I know one of the rookies was packing Tootsie Rolls in her booties, extra booties to throw to kids along the trail. So it works both ways.
Yeah, and it is, I guess, an opportunity, too, to to get the first checklist done as you prepare for tomorrow and the real start in Willow. I mean, it's almost a dress rehearsal for that.
Yeah, I just did an interview with Ray Reddington for The Insider, and he was saying, I said, it's just kind of another day, hon. He goes, you know, it is, and I know it, but he says, I still get butterflies. He says, I still get a little nervous even though I know better. And here's a guy that's been around this since he was born.
Yeah,
so.
And the greatest fear today is hurting a dog.
That is the greatest fear. As a musher, your deal today is, you know, a lot of us wouldn't even take our very best dogs, those key dogs at that point. So we think we got a musher going old style way up on the front with the G-pole here and the skis.
Look at
That's
that.
the old trapper way. It's easier to steer the sled. Nice to see a little history there.
And its anniversary of the National Historic Iditarod Trail. That is Rod Perry at Iditarod 39.
Wow, Rod Perry.
Ran the very first Iditarod.
Yeah, one of the early legends of this race. And look at that sled.
And that's how
you
they
gotta
used
love
to,
that, huh?
Yeah, because that's what they used to start with in the old days. I mean, that was the way Iditarod started right there. Now it looks like history. Then it just looked normal. And the scary thing is, I remember that.
And I know Rod Perry. He's also an author and has written books on the Iditarod. And boy, you go back through history, and it was cool sitting down and talking to Rod as we built Purely Alaskan, the historical documentary that we put together last year, and Rod was a big part of that.
And what he said was, or what you said was, only a few can be first, and no matter what, will never take that away from them. They're the guys who left here without. Now these guys, not to diminish anything on their competitiveness, but they know everything about what's out there. When they went that first year, they didn't have a clue of what was out there. They didn't even know if you could go that far.
Yeah, certainly did. And that was the great mystery back in 1973 as they lined up over at Tudor Track here in Anchorage over on Tudor Road. They weren't sure if they could make it. And there was no trail. There was no trail breakers out in front of them. I mean, you were literally, in the truest sense of the word, breaking a trail to Nome.
Yeah, they were. But the biggest difference is those guys knew how to break trail. I'm not sure a lot of these guys do.
And what's the old joke? I don't think a pair of snowshoes has been used really since the mid-90s or something.
Yeah,
maybe earlier.
But the race marshal, Mark Nordman, told him this year, he said, if you better have those Willow come out and you don't have to cut them out of your sled down in the bottom, because it's that aspect you were asking about trail conditions, that deep snow. That makes it hard to park a team. You might have to put them on just to get off the trail.
And his partner Florence Bush.
So Florence Bush and the sled there, the wife of Tom Bush, and of course that is the champion of the junior Iditarod. That's a great thrill, and it's great for Iditarod as you can see the future. I know Lance Mackey's son Kane will be in the event this year. He's a former champion. We've seen so many of those kids grow up and now become really competitive racers in this race.
Yeah, Dean Osmar's son Timmy Osmar, junior Iditarod champion and Iditarod competitor. CV boys, have run that. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of people that are now competitors that started in the juniors. So.
And look who it brings to the line. Our first musher, and one of the most popular for better than 20 years now. And Dee Dee Johnrow, one of the great miracles, I think, of this event. And Jeff King used to tell me a long time ago that Dee Dee Johnrow is one of the great examples of the fact that you can have a real impact and be one of the stars of this race without winning it.
Yeah, and she definitely can. For a person that hasn't won, I mean, she has more fans than anybody. And you see it in Nome and you see it all along the trail. She started racing in 1980 and she's done about 34 of these races, and she's won close to $500,000 in prize money alone. But for Dee Dee, she's one you ask, why do you keep doing this? And she truly loves this event. She truly loves Alaska and Alaskans, and this is her way of seeing them out there on the trail.
Yeah, 28 starts, and her best finish was second place in 1993. She's got a couple of 4s, a couple of 5s. She was right there knocking at the door. And I was there in White Mountain in 1993, and I think she came in, I think it was 7 minutes behind Jeff King.
I remember the footage of them coming in those those rolling open tundra hills as they went from White Mountain to Nome, and a shot of Jeff looking over his shoulder, and you could see Dee cresting the hill behind him. I mean, that was a close race, and a lot of people like to see Dee win. She's deserved it, but because she's done the homework. But it's a mean world out there, and you still got to earn it. So, you know, I know she has the stuff. She worked closely with Susan Butcher for years. They were a team, and she's got a lot of history out on the trail of different types of conditions. And I think for a lot of people real involved in the race currently, they tend to look at the Dallas Seavies and the Lance Mackeys, but you know, people like Dee and Rick Swenson, you give them a shot at being up there at the front, you got your hands full. Yeah. They know how to race to win, which is different than to just race. You know.
And there's going to be a year, Bruce, where it's going to come down to trail knowledge, race knowledge, that's going to get you there first. We're going to have one of those odd years eventually, whether it's a storm or just a series of storms where it's going to take all of this experience to get him to the line. And I think that's why Swenson still has a chance, Dee still has a chance. There may be long shots, but there's still a chance. And I think that's one reason why they still run the way they do.
Yeah, and they know how to take care of dogs. They have proven breeding programs. You know, they both have had health issues over the last couple of years, but Dee's back and strong, and it's hard to beat a positive attitude.
Yeah, the Seppala Humanitarian Award winner in 91, most inspirational in 93.
There she goes.
And 2003. And there's Dee Jonrowe. And you can hear the fans most appreciative of Dee. One of the legends of the sport, really.
Welcome to what we like to call the Fast and the Furious.
And from the legend of Dee Jonrowe to the legend of the name Reddington. And that brings Ray Reddington Jr. to the line.
Thing, you know, it's a celebration of Alaska's culture, of the history of the different ethnic groups of Alaska, besides the partnership with dog and man. That's just one of those base primary relationships. And it's that opportunity once a year to do the very best you can with the best you've raised and put it all out there, and then let the chips fall where they may. It keeps me back. It's I never feel more alive. I never feel like the adrenaline is flowing in my veins, and I'm more alive than when I'm on the Iditarod Trail.
There's Dee, and I've heard her say that throughout the years, where she never feels more alive. And you know, to the average person, that may mean hanging out with the grandkids. It may mean, you know, hitting the golf ball around. To Dee Jonrowe, it means putting yourself in some of the most hostile conditions that the planet has to offer with these dogs that she spends so much time with her life. And really, it's the people, Bruce, and you can talk about this. As you get closer to Nome, there's so many great people that you've developed relationships with, and maybe you only get to see them once a year, but it's like seeing an old friend every time you show up.
And that's for the whole Iditarod community. I mean, there's people that you never see but once a year. Checkers, people in the communities, people helping out there, and it kind of becomes a traveling caravan of a family, you see. And Ray Reddington here coming up, of course, his grandfather started this event. He's a serious competitor. This is his 10th run at this. He'd like to win this thing for the legend of who he is.
Ray Reddington Jr. Wasilla's very own.
Yeah, Ray finished 11th last year. And you got to feel that he's working hard enough, he's young enough. One of these years he's going to put himself into contention, and who knows. And this may be the year. I mean,
well,
it seems like a lot of the races so far in this season, Bruce, there's been a storm, there's been weather that has impacted the end of each one of those races. And
this year on the race circuit, every race has ended with a surprise. It's been an amazing year. The Yukon Quest, the front three teams scratched within 100 miles of the finish line, and so everybody's got a shot, but there definitely are more serious competitors that take advantage of those situations to be there to win.
And Trent Herbst's at the line now. This will be his 5th start from Ketchum, Idaho, one of the real interesting characters of the race, and I know that beard has got to become a signature for Trent. He's a school teacher down there, and I know his students will be following him. And he's really made the Iditarod and mushing part of his curriculum there. I know last year his students built his sled that he took all the way to Nome, and it lasted, and the students actually came up here.
He always just seems like he's having a good time. I mean, he doesn't have a dream of being in the top 20. He's out there for the experience and the community that he shares it with the kids, and like you said, that whole educational experience. But he just always seems like he's happy and feels privileged to be out on the trail.
Yeah, he finished 65th, 73rd, 48th, and 49th last year. So I'm sure Trent will be shooting for the top 40. And
15 seconds.
And if you can see Iditarod, you've seen enough now that your eyes are wide open and you know anything's possible. So Trent's pretty prepared now.
Yeah, it's a lot easier each time you go, but and he's off. You might notice that if you can see these, they've got somebody riding in a sled. These are all Iditariders, is what they call it, people that bid on an opportunity to ride. Iditarod holds a little raffle every year, and these are actually just fans. They have no experience at all with sled dog mushing, but they come from all over. There's people here from Texas, they're Massachusetts, Connecticut, all over it, and that's what you're seeing with these people riding in the sleds here.
And Alan Moore coming to the line now from Two Rivers, Alaska, and Alan married to Allie Zirkle, and together they've got quite a kennel.
Yeah, and what Alan's actually doing is, how serious they are about this event is, they're not only entered into it, they're entering 2 teams. Typically, Allie takes the A team, and Alan goes on a training run. Now, he's a serious competitor, and he just finished the Yukon Quest, but they train the up-and-coming dogs by running them at a slower pace so that they know the trail. So this is, now you got 2 good mushers teamed up to try and win this event.
Alan, born in Arkansas. Lives in Two Rivers. That's a great mushing community. You spent a lot of time up around there.
Yeah, a lot of the real focal point in mushing is Two Rivers, right outside of Fairbanks. There's thousands of miles of trail. Rick Swenson's there. I mean, there's just endless names that people that train out of that location, and that's why they go there. They share trail maintenance, and everybody takes care of little sections, and Fairbanks really is in Alaska the focal point. It's like Lexington with Kentucky with horse races. There's other places that are good, but everything's there, and great trail systems.
Alan's best finish in 2009, finished 33rd. He finished 35th last year. One of the real good guys on the trail. You never see him grumpy, never see him in a tough mood. He's just another guy who seems to really enjoy his days. Fun to be around. Alan Moore. Streets really starting to fill up here, Chris. I mean, you look all the way down there. There are literally thousands of people. From this vantage, you really get to see how many people are lining the streets. It's great to see in the city of Anchorage. And this is one of the great stories a year ago. Newton Marshall from Jamaica at the line. And we talked to Newton a lot last year. And of course, it creates a lot of wonder when you have a guy come from such a warm climate to come up and try an event in the coldest climate.
And he has an incredible amount of fans. Everybody just thinks it's so great a guy from Jamaica is up here running sled dogs. And his first experience, I heard, was running them in the sand on the beaches of Jamaica. But he is a nice guy, and he's trained with Lance Mackey, and he's also trained with, some people don't know, with Hans Gott. Those are 2 pretty powerful kennels to learn from. So he's always finished every race that he started, and he's handled himself gracefully on the trail. I say that from the standpoint he's not just a joke out there. He's actually really into this, and he doesn't have any illusions of winning, but he's definitely bringing a lot of attention to the sport and getting a lot of fans because of the uniqueness of the event. Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. The first Jamaican to ever not only finish the race, but to start the race. He finished 47th last year, and hey, last year wasn't an easy year, Bruce. And it was averagely tough. A lot of cold weather. I mean, we had a lot of soft snow in the early portions of the race, and then it got cold.
So you think a guy from Jamaica would think 35 below is cold for some reason?
I know. There's Newton. And he won't lose that smile all the way to Nome. Yeah. He's got a little jive going. Oh, he looks like a veteran. Very comfortable now.
Yeah, he's having fun. Yeah.
And now to the line, Christy Barrington from Casilla, working with Paul Gephardt. Got a twin sister, Anna, and I believe she may be running the Iditarod in the future as well. But Christy, a rookie last year, finished 39th. She seems to be serious about this. I mean, she's dug herself into this sport.
Yeah, she does. I mean, I don't know what her long-range goals are, but she definitely is dedicated to the sport. She's given up pretty much everything else that she'd ever done and focused, moved to Alaska, work with Paul Gephardt and his family, who have one of the most serious competitive kennels in the state, and I'm sure that she's a help to him by running some of these younger dogs, again, to give them a little trail experience before they go into the A-team and the more competitive. And that's just what the sport's grown into. And it's opened doors to people that handle and have other jobs that they can go out and run this race and experience it like she's doing.
Yeah, Christy, 26 years old now, out of Casilla. And I talked to her this morning too. She seems now to be a lot more comfortable with this in her second year as well. I mean, the experience of finishing, the confidence that you get of reaching Nome cannot be measured when you show up here again to run this race.
It's huge.
Yeah.
The aspect that you could have some idea what's going on out there and just know a little bit of what's coming up, even as far as how to get into the checkpoint now.
1 minute for Christy Barrington. Grew up in northern Wisconsin.
We want to welcome you to the ceremonial start of the last great race on earth, the official restart.
Former wrangler in the Sierra Nevada mountains near Lake Tahoe. Just let the truck know we have lost complete IFB. And I tell you, when you train with Paul Gephardt, I mean, he's one of the best. Again, another guy who's not won yet. He may be doing. Who knows? He may do it this year. But what a great guy to learn from.
Yep, can teach her a lot. Prepare her for the trail, how to pack a sled, what kind of gear to take.
No IFB, none, nothing. And the countdown on now for Christy Barrington. Bib number 7.
That is Casilla's very own Christy Barrington in the number 7 position, and Iditarod at 39.
And there she goes.
The Iditarod team's average 16 dogs, which means more than 1,000 dogs.
Yeah, and I think she proved last year she's not all about good looks.
Yeah, she actually said that herself. I wasn't going to bring it up, but I did.
But I will.
Yeah,
I'll
but you will.
I'll state the obvious.
Yeah, I think the quote was, "I'm going to prove I'm not just another pretty face."
That's right.
Quote unquote.
Yeah. And I talked to Paul last year before the race, and he's trained with both Christy and her sister, and he says, look, these gals are tough. They are tough. They'll be able to handle it. So good luck to her. Coming to the line now, Chris Hoffman out of Steamboat Springs, Colorado. Born in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Received a bachelor's in economics at the University of Minnesota Morris.
You know, I talked to him a while ago, and I asked him what he thought about this being a rookie. He is the first rookie going out today, and he's just in that glow. Yeah. You know, he's just, I'm finally here, I'm in Alaska, I'm running the Iditarod, and I could just see in his eyes, he doesn't have a clue of what's going to hit him about 3 days from now, you know. But today it's all about dreams, and he may finish graciously, but he has no idea what's out there.
And this is the dynamic that I love, Bruce. I mean, he has got a degree in economics.
Huh, yeah.
I mean, he should be on Wall Street, and he finds himself on 4th Avenue. I mean, those are bipolar. They're so far apart. It's not, if you said, well, he majored and has a degree in outdoor rec, I'd say, yeah, musher. Economics, I can't connect the dots.
People walk away from all kinds of professions to do this. It's incredibly addictive. It's the dogs, it's a sense of adventure, it's the mystique of traveling through Alaska with them, but primarily there's something addictive about these dogs. I mean, we've seen people come that were Wall Street bankers, and people come from Europe and all over to run this event, and it's mesmerizing.
Yeah, he's been mushing since 2000.
And coming up next is going to be another one that will kind of change fields pretty drastically there.
Yeah, Zoya,
a model.
I know. We've got the starts of a pretty good calendar, don't we? The Iditarod calendar.
Yeah.
The Barrington Gal, Zoya. I don't know. It's coming together, Bruce.
Yeah. And Zoya again. She's married now to John Schandelmeyer, Yukon Quest champion. Real involved with Iditarod, and she's thrown herself into this mushing lifestyle away from being a model in New York,
and she's now a mother.
Yeah.
She's got a lot on her plate. Yeah. Finished 53rd in 2008. She scratched last year in finger, but she was only a few months into motherhood last year.
Yeah, and that's really why she scratched. She just decided it was too soon to be away from even though the mother was there, her mother was there, and John, and it was just that it was too soon after birth to be heading out on the trail. But I hear she's really well prepared this year. I hear she's going to try a completely different run-rest cycle than what's been popular lately. So she's going to try some different things out there and see if it's easier on her and the dogs to keep up speed. So I'm kind of anxious to watch her. I talked to John and her husband about what all they've been doing in training, and they're actually going to try some pretty non-traditional things this year. So I'm interested to see how that works for her.
Yeah, and John Schandelmeyer, of course, one of the greats at the Yukon Quest, several-time champion in there. I mean, again, you can't buy that kind of experience.
No, absolutely cannot.
And Zoya's on her way. And now Robert Bunsen. And Robert is a long-time Iditarod veteran, and I know over the years he and Zach Steer have shared dogs and really built the kennel together. Zach has been extremely competitive in this race. Robert seems to be okay with middle of the pack. I think that the dynamic there is interesting.
Yeah, I don't really know his attitude about the competitive side of this. I mean, he's very experienced now, and he's finished every race he's ever started. And it is interesting, and sometimes, you hear mushers say, well, again, let's go back to Lance, that you could take Lance's team away from him and give him somebody else's and he'd still win. And, and there's others I felt like, they're that way. They are so good with dogs. So we know that these dogs have the capability of doing some really competitive runs, but people run this race for totally different reasons. Some want to be out there and enjoy the trail, and others want to be there for the competition. So you can see one of our Iditarod riders there, the sled. Looks like a pretty warm hat she has on, huh?
Yeah. Bob now 61 years old, and if my math is right, this will be his 13th Iditarod. Grew up in Anderson, where he used to use a small dog team for trapping. And the countdown. And Bunsen has Ann Holt from Alaska in that sled with him. And there goes Robert Bunsen.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you want to see a legend?
And again, another guy who just enjoys himself out of the trail. I've talked to Bob a lot over the years. And this
who's this guy?
One of the living legends, Martin Boozer, 4-time champion,
and again, you talk about changing lifestyles. Moved from his home country of Switzerland to come over here and run dogs. Started out in Earl Norris's kennel and worked his way up and working with totally different type of dog. Became an American citizen, moved to Alaska, raised his family here, built his own home, and has totally dedicated his life to this. And he's one that said it the other night. He's of the first generation to be full-time employed competitive dog racers. I mean, Alaska historically had full-time dog mushers who were mail carriers, trappers, different jobs like that. But in this aspect, they've created a job out of this.
And Bruce, I think Martin, a lot like Didi, may be the first mushers who have transcended their sport in the way that their celebrity now is greater than just in the mushing community. He may be Alaska's most famous person, and it's because he was a 4-time champion of this race, and because he understood the marketing aspect of this.
Yeah.
And if he knew that if he wanted to make a living at this, it couldn't just be about winning races, that he had to get out there, shake hands, become a politician of sorts, and really grow his name as a marketing tool.
Well, that's partially because this is an expensive sport.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to feed a kennel of dogs and all the equipment and the time off, and you're raising a family and trying to have a home. So, yeah, they do understand the marketing. Mushers had to expand their horizons beyond more than just dogs.
And Martin Boozer is a brand, and so is that hat.
It has become now. I remember the year he got ticked off because Doug Swingley wore one, and Doug Swingley said, "It's just a Montana winter cowboy hat." And Martin goes, "He's got my hat."
Oh, the race misses Doug Swingley.
I haven't seen a drastic change in the record-setting times, and there's not too many new faces in the winning circle, and I like that talk, you know. The more washed up and the gimpier and the older we are being talked about, the sprier, the fitter, the faster we go.
4 junior Iditarod races and was the 2005 junior Iditarod champion.
I mean, Martin, not that Rick Swenson didn't take great care of his dogs, and Susan Butcher did too, but I think those 3 mushers more than anybody put front and center. If you don't take care of them and make that your priority, you're not going to be successful.
I agree completely. Those 3 really put a tremendous effort into improving dog care, and Martin has won the Humanitarian Award for the best cared for team more than anybody out here. I think he's won it 4 times. Just like his championships, and been a great example.
And at the line now, Melissa Owens.
She grew up with this. I read a story where her dad ran the Iditarod, and that she was born the day after he finished his food drops, because so maybe she started in this sport before she was even born.
Yeah, and who knows? This could be another future star that we're watching. I mean, Melissa, 21 years old, was born in Nome, and I think someone told me she lives in Wasilla now.
She does. She's going to college. She's getting doing some type of advanced studies now. I don't know what type of degree she's going into, but it's easier to do that here. But she has tremendous support and a lot of fans out on the Bering Sea coast. Nome, of course, their home, and people out on the West Coast, they support all those mushers from Dillingham to Kotzebue, and she's definitely got a big fan base.
We did an interview with Melissa this morning for the Insider. You'll be able to watch that later today. If you do not have your subscriptions yet, please go to Iditarod.com. Get a subscription, and you'll be able to watch this race unfold like it only can at Iditarod.com.
Electrocardiogram to confirm. 15 seconds.
And again, Melissa's been around this for so long, Bruce. You know, it's a lot like the Burmeisters back in the day when they first started coming onto the scene and young. You just got to assume that eventually she's going to be competitive because it's almost been genetically put into them. I mean, she's a smart gal and she gets this and been around dogs for so long.
Well, it's like anything, a family's into it so full time. I mean, if it's again, to use the analogy, if it's...
We'll be back with more live coverage of the 2011 Iditarod Trail Sled Dog Race from 4th Avenue in Anchorage, Alaska, right after these messages.
With a little help, today's young tinkerers, wonderers, and dreamers could become America's next great scientists or engineers. They just need a little push. That's why the National Math and Science Initiative is so important. It's dedicated to producing 10,000 new math and science teachers so we can inspire today's tinkerers to become tomorrow's much-needed innovators.
Being a big city gal from Willow, you might think I'd have trouble adjusting when I get out here in rural Alaska. Truth is, I love it out here, especially now that GCI covers so much of Alaska, so I can get away from the Willow rat race and know that my GCI phones have got me connected.
Hey, Dee Dee, do you mind if I take a picture?
No, fine. Paparazzi, they're everywhere.
We've seen Alaska grow from a territory to a state, from a gold field to a business center, from a frontier to a tourist destination. For more than 120 years, Wells Fargo has been part of Alaska's incredible past. And today, by supporting economic development, culture, and education, we're doing our part to ensure Alaska has just as impressive a future. Wells Fargo, proud supporter of Alaska and the Iditarod.
And welcome back to 4th Avenue, downtown Anchorage. That's Bruce Litton, now from Kasilof, Alaska, on his way. And Bruce starting his 5th Iditarod this year. Of course, a guy who travels with diabetes and has certainly done a lot of great work in that area. And of course, he's wearing that famous bib number 13.
That
always conjures up images, doesn't it?
Yep, that's always the bib. The number 13 is the luckiest number in mushing, if you don't know that. A lot of championships won with number 13.
Yes. And that brings Nicholas Pettit to the line out of Girdwood. Nick now 31 years old, but
now he's running Jim Lanier's dogs, right?
Yes.
Jim's been around Iditarod for a long time, and Jim's having some hip surgery, I heard, so he stepped in and taken over the team.
And if you're wondering if those are Jim Lanier's dogs, you can simply take a quick glance and understand that, they're just about all white. And that's kind of been a signature of Jim Lanier's teams over the years. What's his thinking with that, do you know?
The white dogs?
Yeah, well, why all white? Just a peculiar thing?
It's just something that he came up with. I don't know, we all kind of ask ourselves that. It's so hard to get a really champion dog, but when you start adding color in there, it's like, why complicate this even more? But no one can doubt Jim has completed a lot of Iditarods with those dogs, and they're really good, so it's something he enjoys. And as a rookie in this guy should know that he's at least doesn't have to question the capability of his dogs.
That's for sure. And we talked to Nick this morning as well. And like so often you talk to these rookies, I mean, their just eyes are wide open and they're just excited about this opportunity to travel across the state of Alaska on a dog team. There's Nick Pettit. And you can see the bluebird sky there, and some clouds, high clouds existing as well, but just a beautiful day now in downtown Anchorage for the ceremonial start of Iditarod 39. And now 65-year-old Bob Story to the line.
And here's another person that spent a lot of time and effort. He contacted Vern Halter and Susan Whitten, of course, famous Iditarod mushers on their own, and got trained by them, put a lot of money into this. He came all the way from New Zealand to run this event.
New Zealand Army officer training.
And Bruce, this is to me one of the things that's always drawn me to this event. And he's 65 years old. And at that late stage in his life, he has chosen to take on what would be very difficult for a 20-year-old to physically do. And at 65 years old, he's still alive enough to even have the vision of trying to do this. I give these people so much credit for those reasons.
Don't you think that's part of an Alaskan thing? I mean, people are supportive of dreams up here. You know, you want to go off and build a cabin on your own, but you've never built something. People, they don't say, well, what do you know? I mean, I really think that positive attitude is part of the frontier spirit. And if he takes his time and well, then again, Joe Reddington ran his first Iditarod in his mid-50s.
Yeah.
And of course, Norman Vaughn went till he was in his 80s.
Yeah.
So there's some pretty good role models there. So
no, tremendous human spirit. There's a lot of 65-year-olds in this world that would just as soon be on the couch.
Yeah.
And these guys are putting themselves literally in harm's way.
Yeah. And he
about
might
to test themselves physically like nothing else.
And he may want to be on a couch in about 5 days too.
Maybe by the time he gets to McGrath, he'll be ready.
I tell you what, though, knowing where those dogs came from, that's a good dog team.
Yeah.
Vern always bred really good, strong dogs.
Well, cruising right along.
Position number 16. This is Jody Bailey.
Now we have a rookie who's doing something unique, trying to complete both the Yukon Quest and the Iditarod in 1 year.
Yeah, Jody Bailey, a rookie, not really a rookie, but we had a chance to sit down and talk to her. Here's what she has to say.
I think it builds a lot of confidence to finish a 1,000-mile race, because I think the hardest thing about racing that long a distance is that, you know, you're tired and you're presented with things you haven't been presented before, and you have to try and make the best intelligent decisions you can, and you're getting more and more sleep deprived and more new things are being presented, and you still have to try and make smart decisions.
Joining Jody in the Iditarod.
And Bruce, just by what she just said in that soundbite, you can already tell that she's far from a rookie. This may be the first time she sees the Iditarod Trail on a dog team, but she's very experienced, and you know.
Right, and we've always had that, different types of rookies. There's categories of rookies. She comes from a kennel that has completed this.
Yeah.
She's married to a past Iditarod finisher. She's been a lot of time out on the trail, but it isn't like knowing the trail. But I have to applaud her in their first year, nonetheless, to take on both the Iditarod and Yukon Quest. And the Yukon Quest was a tough race this year.
Yeah.
A lot of competitive mushers scratched, well-known names, and she finished 7th, so she has the tenacity to stick it out in cold weather and wind, and so she's got the skills.
Jody Bailey, Chattanooga, Alaska. 42 years old, born in Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts. Well, let's take a timeout. It's the ceremonial start of Iditarod 39, downtown Anchorage. We'll be right back.
With more live coverage of the 2011 Iditarod Trail Sled Dog Race from 4th Avenue in Anchorage, Alaska, right after these messages.
The Iditarod Insider is your only source for the most in-depth coverage of the last great race on Earth. Live streaming coverage of the start, restart, and finish.
Wow, 4 in a row.
Up-to-the-minute insider video-on-demand coverage of the entire Iditarod field. Exclusive real-time tracking and mapping of each team on the trail with the Insider's GPS tracker. There's only one source, one place to get reliable, concise, real-time coverage of the 2011 Iditarod. The Insider, only at Iditarod.com.
Mushing and mining. We share a rich Alaskan heritage of challenge and reward. Donlin Creek is proud to sponsor and celebrate the 2011 Iditarod Sled Dog Race. And proud to be part of Alaska's modern mining industry and its contributions to the economy of Alaska.
Does Anchorage Chrysler Dodge Jeep have the best prices in Alaska? Does Iditarod champion Lance Mackey get excited when he wins a new Ram 4x4?
Yeah! Oh, the truck! They're going to look good in silver. Black, blue, I don't care if it's hot pink, I'd be proud to drive it.
The winner's truck, Ram 4x4. Iditasale priced at just $24,720. The official Iditarod Trail Sale, only at Anchorage Chrysler Dodge Jeep.
Welcome back to live coverage of the start of the 2011 Iditarod Trail Sled Dog Race from 4th Avenue in downtown Anchorage, Alaska. Brought to you by Anchorage Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Donlin Creek, ExxonMobil, and GCI.
And welcome back to 4th Avenue, downtown Anchorage. At the line right now, 4-time reigning champion Lance Mackey.
In the Iditarod program from Florida is Alan. 30 seconds.
And 5 in a row. Possible, Bruce?
Definitely
Push
possible.
on the line, right?
I think it's possible, and I think it's possible because he seems so up when we talk to him.
Yeah.
He told me it's the best bunch of dogs that he's ever driven. He's got some new ones in there that are unproven, but he's got his leaders all back from last year. He's positive about it, and when he's positive, it's a force to deal with.
And here's what Lance had to say prior to the race.
I think it's safe to say that Lance in the race.
I'm as excited this year as I've ever been, and as focused and really, it sounds ridiculous after winning 4, but I'm as hungry as I've ever been to win the Iditarod because, in my opinion, those are old. You know, we got years in front of us, and I want to win some Iditarod. So our team is as sharp as they've ever been. We have 11 new dogs this year, which is a little bit of a concern, but not really because I've had a young team in the past, and they all performed well. So.
And I think you said a little bit ago, Lance Mackey could show up with any 16 dogs and he'd be confident. And we as people covering the race would have to be confident that he would be a contender. He's that good.
He is that good. And he's able to always pull the rabbit out of the hat. We've watched that. Anybody that's watched this event have seen him in 2 races pull tricks that won him the championship, and he's willing to try anything. And again, here's a guy who comes from that history and the legend. You can almost say there's always been in this race a Mackey you had to beat to win. His dad, Dick, his brother, Rick. You know, I remember running the Yukon Quest, and someone told me, well, to win, you got to beat Rick. So maybe it hasn't changed, meaning Rick Mackey, and now you got to beat Lance. So in a way, it's a dynasty that you've always had to beat a Mackey to win this thing.
And if Allie Zirkle wants to get her first championship, she'll have to beat Lance Mackey. Hard to believe, but Allie now about to begin her 11th Iditarod at 41 years old, born in New Hampshire, one of the real good people of this event and this sport. And Bruce, really serious about this. I mean, she wants to win.
She is real serious about this, and she's been a little, like Hans Gott, as put in that same category, has been a little frustrated by this event. They're both Yukon Quest champions. Allie was the first woman to win the Yukon Quest, and she's had very competitive finishes, but she just never got up into that winner's circle. But she has predatory vision right down to that winner's circle and puts the effort into it every year.
There's a good shot of Allie Zirkle's team. Duck, Allie. Oh, that was good.
Yeah.
Angie Taggart at the line now from Ketchikan, Alaska, and I'm not quite sure where Angie lives now. She was born in Idaho, but not a whole lot of snow in the valleys in Ketchikan.
No, there isn't, and I heard that she moved to Idaho for better training. I don't know why she didn't come up here. But.
Wearing bib number 19, 36 years old, went to college in Juneau. And then she's been teaching in Ketchikan now for 10 years. So.
And something that fans from a distance might not realize, you don't get to just be a rookie and say, I want to do this thing and sign up. They have to jump through some hoops.
Yeah.
They have to complete some preliminary races in the 200 and 300 mile category. They have to come up here to a mandatory rookies meeting, even if they're from Norway. They'll make that effort to come up midwinter, and they meet with veteran mushers and Stu Nelson, the head veterinarian for the event. People like Martin Boozer, myself, Jeff King, anybody that's around that's a veteran come in. We tell them trail aspects, and then they go over the rules with the race marshal, Mark Nordman, to qualify to be able to stand here today.
Also a great swimmer. Master Swimming, National Education Association. And Angie Taggart now about to begin her very first Iditarod sled dog race. And there she goes. And of course, never had the privilege, but it's just got to be a very exhilarating day and experience, and our first tangle of the morning.
Hey, they're just dogs.
It happens, right?
You try tying 16 dogs together and not get a tangle now and then. It just happens.
I mean, I could tangle up tying the shoes someday, Bruce.
But I tell you what, it's a lot more concerning for a rookie than it is for a veteran because you know they get tangled. But she's off and going.
And explain why the tow sled.
Well, a lot of the mushers will choose to take a second sled just for control. You mentioned earlier the biggest concern is hurting a dog. So we're in an urban environment here. I mean, we're not just out on the edge. If you haven't been to Anchorage, this is a city. I mean, there's street lights and parking meters, and that person like then just could get off, run up there, help with a tangle, leaving the musher in control with the dog. So it's just a control issue. Kelly Griffin coming up now. She just completed that tough Yukon Quest race that had so many scratches. She's one of the mushers running both the Yukon Quest and the Iditarod, which Lance kind of got that pattern started. It had been done before, but to do it successfully, people feel like it prepares the dogs, gets them trail hardened. Kelly just finished the Quest, and it was 35, 45 below. They had a lot of high winds. They had a lot of open water to go through, and a lot of teams scratched, but she made it.
Yeah. 15 seconds. Born here in Minnesota, or born in Minnesota, graduated from West Anchorage High School, known as West High now, here in the city of Anchorage. Been around mushing for 30 years. So again, Kelly Griffin, pretty experienced, even though it's her third Iditarod start. Has seen a lot. And the Yukon Quest obviously brews such a different race than the Iditarod, but it prepares you in a whole different way.
It's the greatest preparatory thing you can do. I mean, it's less support, meaning less checkpoints, still cold northern conditions, and you have to care for your dogs for 1,000 miles. So.
And you have to be really outdoorsy. Emmett Peters waving at us.
Yeah.
1975 champion. Yeah. But I mean, the Quest is really what the Iditarod was in some ways in the early 70s, mid-70s, where you had to be really skilled outdoors to survive.
Yes, yeah, it definitely has done a little bit more of the rustic aspect of it, as far as it's mainly that thing of less checkpoints.
Yeah. And Dallas Seavey out of Willow now at the line, 22 years old and
hungry.
Certainly
and hungry.
Very hungry, but an up and coming and a rising star in the Iditarod, and a kid and a name that I think all of us need to get used to. He's going to be around for a long time.
And he's going to win this thing, barring just something impossible. I mean, he set that goal. He wants to be the youngest musher to ever win this. Yeah. And let's not forget, he just finished becoming this year's Yukon Quest champion in that really tough race. So he's got the stuff. I mean, he ran a very smart, calculated Yukon Quest and walked away with the championship as a rookie.
Yeah, and I know Rick Swenson was the youngest to win the race, and I believe he was 26.
Not sure on that.
Or 28.
He was
One
in
of
his
those
20s.
two numbers.
Yeah.
Dallas has got 3-4 more years to try to beat Swenson. I mean, he's got a real shot at this.
Oh, he does. He does. He's proven it. I mean, look at his finishes. You know, the last couple of years, he's been in the top 10.
Yeah. And what I love about Dallas Seavey is that this guy's in the condition where if it comes down to a literal foot race in the last 100 miles, he will get off that sled and run a good number of those miles. Physically will get off that sled. Yep. All right, this is the ceremonial start of Iditarod 39, the streets of downtown Anchorage. The celebration continues when we come back.
With more live coverage of the 2011 Iditarod Trail Sled Dog Race from 4th Avenue in Anchorage, Alaska, right after these messages.
Iditarod champion Lance Mackey has now won 4 brand new Dodge 4x4 pickup trucks the hard way. You can win a brand new Dodge truck just like Lance's the easy way. Just call 1-800-545-MUSH or stop by the Iditarod store in the 5th Avenue Mall to get your 2011 Iditarod Winter Raffle ticket today. 20 great prizes worth more than $190,000, including 4 Dodge 4x4 pickups. And thank you for making a contribution to support the last great race on earth, the Iditarod.
I would love to have been a musician, but I knew that I was going to need a day job. We actually have a lot of scientists that play music. The creativity, the innovation, there's definitely a tie there. One thing our scientists are working on is carbon capture and storage, which could prevent CO2 from entering the atmosphere. We've just built a new plant to demonstrate how we can safely freeze out the CO2 from natural gas. It looks like snow. It's one way that we're helping provide energy with fewer emissions.
Texting in the Arctic? No problem. All you need is GCI.
Of course, speaker buttons would be nice too.
For calling, texting, and just staying connected, GCI Wireless works all over Alaska, in places the other guys don't.
Welcome back to live coverage of the start of the 2011 Iditarod Trail Sled Dog Race from 4th Avenue in downtown Anchorage, Alaska. Brought to you by Anchorage Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Donlin Creek, ExxonMobil, and GCI.
And welcome back to downtown Anchorage, the ceremonial start of Iditarod 39. We're just over 20 teams in now, and Magnus Keltenborn of Lillehammer, Norway. And we've had Norwegians in the race before, Bruce, and they've been very successful here in Iditarod. We don't know much about Magnus yet, 21 years old, but who knows?
Who knows? I don't know a lot about this guy, to be perfectly honest, but we know Norwegians are tough, that's for sure here.
That's for sure. And you have to imagine that he grew up idolizing guys like Robert Sorley and the mushers who have come over here and had great success in this event. So.
Yeah, and historically, Alaska's had a lot of great Norwegian mushers during the gold rush period that come from that heritage. So.
And now another real contender at the start line. Hans Gott, you like him. If it's not Mackey, maybe it's Hans this year, huh? That's the way it would have been last year. Let's hear what Hans had to say before we talk about it.
Well, first of all, I learned in the Yukon Quest a couple of weeks before the Iditarod that I can beat him and how to beat him. Unfortunately, on the Iditarod, it was totally my fault not winning that race because I paid too much attention in taking care of my team and not enough attention in what he was doing. I just never looked at the running times or the checkpoints or anything, and I should have done that because when I looked at it after the race, I was frustrated because it was really my race to win.
And Bruce, you can talk some about that. Last year, and you hear it from mushers all the time, I have to pay attention to what my team is doing and I can't look at others. But at some point in time, if you want to win, you've got to start looking at those run times and understanding I'm moving faster, but I'm not catching them, therefore I must be resting too long. Hans made a tactical mistake last year.
Hans did make a technical mistake, and the thing is, I could look at what he was doing as we were out there covering it for the Insider and see that he was running faster than both Jeff and Lance.
Yeah.
And of course, he caught Jeff and passed him and took that second position. I do like him. I mean, if not Lance, he's my pick in the winner's circle. That's the only thing. When he's leaving right now, he's not running the Iditarod. He is only going to win. He's won every other major championship in the world. He has been second last year in Iditarod. He will totally go for broke in this event to win it. He's got nothing else to prove.
He says this is his last one. We've heard that before from Hans Scott, but at 52 years old, we have to think that he's getting to the end of the line because he keeps saying it all the time. You believe that this is his last race?
Unless he wins.
Four-time champion of the Yukon Quest, Hans Scott, and another really good guy in this event. He's an easy guy to root for, and we wish him well.
I think barring something going wrong, I mean, Lance is going to have to deal with him.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, but something can go wrong. But very serious competitor.
Here's Billy Snodgrass out of Dubois, Wyoming, or Du Bois. I'm not sure how to say that.
Du Bois.
Du Bois.
Yep.
And now his fourth Iditarod at the age of 54 years old. And he's been in dogs a long time, right? He has a dog food company.
Yeah, he does. I first got to know Billy when I went down to run the Rocky Mountain Stage Race. A lot of Alaskans go down and run that event across Wyoming, and Billy's helped out down there. But, you know, no matter, and that kind of shows that no matter where you are in the world, you can be in Norway, you can be in Canada, you can be in Wyoming. They're all got good dog mushers and good trails. But the apex of this sport is Alaska. And the Iditarod is the ultimate event to run, and that's what pulls him up here.
Yeah. Finished 47th in 98, 45th in 2000, 48 a year ago. And again, Billy, one of these guys that really enjoys his time out on the trail and always happy and always easy to talk to and always willing to talk to you. So we wish him well.
State of Wyoming.
And Bruce, they all try to keep their dogs held back. I mean, you don't want anybody running too hard and burning up too much energy. And so, I mean, normally viewers at home might expect these dogs to be at top speed the minute they pull out of here, but the mushers are holding them back. They're controlling the speed, and I don't know if everybody understands that you can control the speed of your dog team.
You can control it by, I would say right off the bat, 3 things. One is conditioning. People that run sprint races, fast races, they keep their dogs at a high lope all the time so they know that's what's expected of them. By dragging a brake, putting a little pressure into the snow, you slow them down, and by voice command. These guys could call these dogs up anytime that they wanted, but today's about fun, and not only that, there's no reason to try and get it all done in the first mile. There's 1,000 miles out there. So.
And we'll even see it tomorrow in Willow. They'll hold them back until they get a few miles out there and just gradually get them into their rhythm.
Bring them up on step. It's like an athlete warming up for an event. They just don't want to go ripping out right from the get-go. But you look at these dogs in the starting chutes as they're heading out and they're barking and hitting the lines. I mean, they want to go. They'll go, just let me go. I don't care if it's 6 miles an hour or 15, but let's go somewhere.
This is Tom Thurston out of Oak Creek, Colorado. And he has run the Iditarod now for 3 consecutive years. In 09, he finished 44th, had to scratch a year ago, and now he's back at the age of 40 years old.
I talked to him a while ago, and he talked about his scratch last year. Things just went wrong, but he is so excited and positive about being up here. He just couldn't wait to get out on the trail. And even that scratch he looked at as a positive thing. He's gained more experience now of pitfalls along the way. So real positive attitude and ready to go.
And explain, he's got 6 of his 12 dogs with coats on. Why not all the dogs?
Well, like people, they're all individuals. Yeah. He could be doing something as simply advertising a cause or sponsor. We put logos on there. Why do guys paint those things on their cars at NASCAR? Does that make them go faster?
I hear you.
So I mean it's the marketing aspect of what you talked about in the sport. Yeah. But he may also have dogs that have shorter hair, and he's just putting a little protection on them there. So
is it a situation where you put a blanket on a white dog and don't necessarily have to put one on a black dog because it absorbs the sun?
Well, we've talked about that. We've actually made reflective coats for black dogs. They absorb heat more, and people kind of laugh about that up here in Alaska, but it can get too warm to run these guys, and they go slower, and it takes more out of them. If you've never been up here, do you really like going out and pushing a mower on a 98-degree day versus a 70-degree day? It's relative to the job you're doing. So they're running. We've actually had blankets made out of reflective material that looks like tin foil. And so it can be used for both purposes.
Ellen Helverson out of Wasilla at the line now. Finished in 2007 in 58th position, her only finish in her career. Any idea she's related to Dewey?
I don't think so.
Born and raised in North Dakota, and again a degree in biology and music education.
9, 8, 7, 6.
And she's been a psychiatrist for the last 19 years.
That kind of worries you, doesn't it, Greg?
It does kind of worry me. Because she, of all people, should know
better than this.
As Ellen Helverson leaves the start line here in downtown Anchorage, you're watching the ceremonial start of Iditarod 39. Can you believe that? 39 years now. We'll be right back for more.
We'll be back with more live coverage of the 2011 Iditarod Trail Sled Dog Race from 4th Avenue in Anchorage, Alaska, right after these messages.
Does Anchorage Chrysler Dodge Jeep have the best prices in Alaska? Does going downhill with a fast dog team put you more in touch with winter?
Trade in that old sled for a brand new Journey. It's just $17,920. Awesome Adventures just $20,220. And Grand Caravan Express only $24,970. The official Iditarod Trail Sale only at Anchorage Chrysler Dodge Jeep.
Mushing and mining. We share a rich Alaskan heritage of challenge and reward. Donlin Creek is proud to sponsor and celebrate the 2011 Iditarod Sled Dog Race. And proud to be part of Alaska's modern mining industry and its contributions to the economy of Alaska.
The Iditarod Insider is your only source for the most in-depth coverage of the last great race on Earth. Live streaming coverage of the start, restart, and finish.
Wow, 4 in a row.
Up-to-the-minute insider video-on-demand coverage of the entire Iditarod field. Exclusive real-time tracking and mapping of each team on the trail with the Insider's GPS tracker. There's only one source, one place to get reliable, concise, real-time coverage of the 2011 Iditarod. The Insider, only at Iditarod.com.
Welcome back to live coverage of the start of the 2011 Iditarod Trails.
And welcome back to 4th Avenue, downtown Anchorage, the ceremonial start of Iditarod 39. And at the line now, Mike Santos from Cantwell, Alaska.
And Mike's living down close to where my home is at Denali. I believe he spent a lot of time with Jeff King and training there. I know he's been putting a lot of effort into this. He is a rookie this year, but I know he had to have gained a lot of experience training in that Cantwell area and being around Jeff King's kennel.
And I saw an interview with Mike. He says he's in this for the long haul. He wants to run several Iditarods. I guess you don't really know that for sure. You may want to think that, but you don't really know that for sure until you get to know him.
You don't know it till you get to know him, but on a greater sense, it's a chosen lifestyle.
Yeah.
You're choosing a lifestyle. It's not just that you're racing, it's that other 50 weeks of the year where you're just constantly choosing to live that rural bush lifestyle, be involved with 50 to 70 dogs, haul water, cook food for them, build equipment. I mean, for some people would see it a huge amount of work, but others, it's all considered fun.
Greg Heister, Bruce Lee, we are literally trailside for the ceremonial start of Iditarod 39. And at the line now, Mitch Seavey, 51 years old, former champion, 2004. He's really been a top 10 contender now for, boy, a good decade or more. Finished 10th last year, and this is a guy that will, again, be in the top 10. He'll be in the picture. He'll contend. He'll be right there. Will he win? Can he win?
Well, I tell you what Jeff King told me on a little blip. He said if one of the people he'd be worried about as much as more, if not more than Lance, is Mitch this year. And you know, he beat both Lance and Jeff King at the All-Alaska Sweepstakes a few years ago. He is a past champion in the Iditarod, but I tell you what, he kind of rattled some cages when he passed him going into Nome in the All-Alaska Sweepstakes. Nobody doubts his dedication to this event.
30 seconds. We wish all the CVs the best.
Of course, he's got his son Danny, Terrell, Dallas, and of course his father was one of the Iditarod originals. The Seavies are one of the great families of Iditarod.
Yeah, they've been there from the very beginning.
Yeah. And Mitch,
I know he feels really positive about this year's team.
He does.
Yeah. And when I go around and talk to these guys, they talk to me as a musher, not as just, you know, kind of talking to the fans. And when they tell me that, I believe them. I mean, most of them will say, "Oh, I got a little hole here or there," questions, but
yeah. Here's more with Mitch.
The team is awesome. It's the most conditioned, well-trained team I've ever driven. And there's a difference. There's definitely a difference. Very settled down, very businesslike, but yet very happy-go-lucky at the same time. And they're a pleasure to drive. I'm having a great time with them.
As we watch One of the teams from high above.
Well, and that's what he's,
downtown Anchorage.
and that's what he has indicated all along. He feels a lot of positiveness about this team, and there's this thing of back and forth. The dogs are doing good. The musher feels good. Musher reflects back a positive attitude, and that combination, they're suddenly capable of doing more than they would have done alone. So that's great to go into this race feeling like there's something special in this team.
And another musher out of the Two Rivers area, Fairbanks area, Judy Courier, 46 years old, a four-time finisher. She scratched a year ago. But this is a woman who says here in her bio was inspired by Libby Riddles and Susan Butcher. And I think many have been. I mean, both men and women. I mean, both those stories. When you go back to '85 and watch what Libby did to go through that storm when many others wouldn't, and of course, Susan Butcher's career has been so well chronicled and one of the legends and truly great mushers of this time. It'd be hard not to be inspired by those two ladies.
Definitely would. And it's kind of the uniqueness of the sport. There are very few other well-established sporting events where men and women compete equally, and where you would have competitors in a range from 20 years old to 60 years old. And in each one of those decades, a serious competitor.
That's true. Judy Courier on her way.
This is Ramey Smith.
And another contender. And another great family name of the Iditarod at the line now, Ramey Smith.
And his dad also ran the very first Iditarod, which you see in the Purely Alaskan History DVD that Iditarod has. And his dad had, I believe in that year, the fastest run from the last checkpoint to the finish line, what we call safety to Nome. And Ramey has 7 of those awards for the fastest run from safety to Nome at the end of the Iditarod. Now what that means to mushers is he's taking good care of his team and he's still got speed left. So what you don't want to see in the last 20 miles of the Iditarod is Ramey Smith coming up on your rear.
Oh, that's true. And look, this event is full of tough people. I mean, and not just tough people, Bruce, it's understated, some of the toughest people. Ramey may be the toughest.
Yeah, he's always been tough, and since we call this Iditarod Insider, I'll give you a little insider thing. The first time I met Ramey, he was still in his teens. He came to a little spring race, 3 days, 50 miles each, and on the last day I hadn't seen him. I look back and I see this guy coming up the trail, whipping up his dogs, and no shirt on. And I knew I was in trouble.
Yes. Mid-90s, I was in Ophir, 35 below zero. Ramey Smith pulled in a T-shirt.
Yeah, he's tough.
Yeah,
he's tough.
As tough as they come.
And he started a log building business, started a family, and he's maintaining his career in this. And so he's the whole deal.
35 years old now, Ramey
Smith. Which is just about right age in this sport.
Boy, it is, isn't it?
You've got it as Iditarider in there.
Yeah, the Iditaroders, I don't know how many years it's been around now, but what a great thing that has turned into. Of course, mushers can buy a spot in these sleds and go these 13 miles. Every sled has got somebody in it. And now, Bruce, they're coming from all over the world for this opportunity. It truly is a great opportunity.
So here's definitely a serious competitor we've got here right now.
Yes.
He went through an incredibly hard Yukon Quest, finished second, just minutes behind Dallas Seavey. He was second in the Iditarod. We thought he was going to retire, and instead he combined kennels with Aaron Burmeister to get the best dogs from both. He's had Jesse Royer, who's also running this, helping him in his kennel. And combined, he's got to have a really powerful team with a lot of depth. Aaron is definitely a great long-distance musher, and putting two teams like that together, you don't know what you could end up with in the way of depth.
Yeah. And we interviewed Sebastian the other day, and we talked about the fact that he said last year he was retiring, and then I think he just had an epiphany this summer that, look, this is who I am. This is my identity. This is what I love to do. I don't think he'll consider retiring now until he's too old to do this. That's the feeling I got this week.
Well, and he has unsettled business. You know, if you finished 15th or 20th in Iditarod and you go away, that was your Iditarod career.
Yeah.
When you finish second, it's kind of unfinished business. And I can say that from personal experience. You know, I've lost the Yukon Quest one year, 4 or 5 minutes, and wanted to go back and get a shot at winning. So this is what he's doing too.
Yeah, Sebastian Schnuller. Here's more.
Let's move up to starting position at number 32. He makes Anchorage proud.
Yeah, let's listen to what Sebastian had to say.
Please welcome.
I have listened to that question so many times this year. Mental relapse. No, it just didn't feel right. I have to say, after last year, it just didn't feel right. That's probably the best way to put it. You never know how it feels unless you make the decision. And
It didn't feel right because maybe you hadn't accomplished yet what you needed?
I definitely didn't accomplish last year what I had set out to do. But with the issues I had at hand, it's the best I could have done. So I said, I give it another shot.
Minnesota, graduated from the University of Minnesota.
Thank you, Sebastian. Let's take a timeout. You're watching the ceremonial start of Iditarod 39, downtown Anchorage. We'll be right back with more.
June of that year to work for Evergreen Memorial. Scott has been a friend and sponsor of Paul Gebhardt for 12 years and began mushing in 2007.
We'll be back with more live coverage of the 2011 Iditarod Trail Sled Dog Race from 4th Avenue in Anchorage, Alaska, right after these messages.
Mushing and mining. We share a rich Alaskan heritage of challenge and reward. Donlin Creek is proud to sponsor and celebrate the 2011 Iditarod Sled Dog Race. And proud to be part of Alaska's modern mining industry and its contributions to the economy of Alaska.
America really needs to prepare more young people for engineering and science careers. Fortunately, we already have lots of bright, curious kids right here. They just need a little push. That's why I've partnered with ExxonMobil to support the Bernard Harris Summer Science Camps, where we inspire today's tinkerers to become tomorrow's innovators. Because as someone who's traveled in space, I know just how far math and science can take you.
Iditarod champion Lance Mackey has now won 4 brand new Dodge 4x4 pickup trucks the hard way. You can win a brand new Dodge truck just like Lance's the easy way. Just call 1-800-545-MUSH or stop by the Iditarod store in the 5th Avenue Mall to get your 2011 Iditarod Winter Raffle ticket today. 20 great prizes worth more than $190,000, including 4 Dodge 4x4 pickups. And thank you for making a contribution to support the last great race on Earth, the Iditarod.
Welcome back to live coverage of the start of the 2011 Iditarod Trail Sled Dog Race from 4th Avenue in downtown Anchorage, Alaska. Brought to you by Anchorage Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Donlin Creek, ExxonMobil, and GCI.
The Iditarod is the greatest race on earth, and it's a real honor to sponsor it, okay?
All right, thank you, Rodon. And Scott Jansen just took off, another rookie here at Iditarod. The mushing mortician. And now Jerry Willimitzer. And Jerry, again, one of these guys that's maybe not knocking at the door of a championship, Bruce, but knocking at the door of contention. I mean, he's right there kind of teetering on the edge.
Yeah, very well put. I mean, he's a serious competitor. He's not afraid to go up and run at the front. He might not be there to win right now in this field, but he's moved from Germany to the Yukon Territory, built a log home there. He's taken on the whole lifestyle. I think he's in this for the long run. He's still gaining experience. I mean, he's taken very seriously, but you look at the data, he's only run 4 Iditarods. That's pretty quick to rise up to the respect that he has.
It is. and finished 30th, 16th, 24th, and 13th a year ago. And Jerry, he's 6'3", 6'4", 235 pounds. I mean, that's always going to be a deficit for him. There's nothing you can do about that. He's in good shape. He's thin. He's not heavy. He's just, that's his body size.
It is, and he's aware of that, and that's become more of an awareness with all mushers. I talked to Sebastian. He told me during that cold Yukon Quest he lost 20 pounds.
Yeah.
And he's, he's at fighting weight now, and Paul Gephardt, who's coming up here soon, he's lost a lot of weight. And they're just doing they're having to put, as the competition gets stiffer and stiffer, you've got to make those little extra efforts. And he is a big guy, but it's tough.
Jerry Willimitzer. He's got to be careful with this camera. You got to get a little higher for him. Okay, at the line now, Paul Gephardt. One of the greats of the race, and one of the great guys, an easy guy to root for, and he's been around for a long time. And what's most interesting now about Paul is that he is the most in shape and in contention and physically ready to win 54-year-old I've ever seen.
Yeah, and he's a favorite of yours, isn't he? You'd like to see him win. But again, we go back to, here's a guy with this unfinished business.
Yeah.
Twice, he's finished second. He has a lot of top 5 finishes. He's not afraid to try unconventional things, go farther to take his 24-hour. He's got nothing to do out here other than enjoy this event, other than to be a champion. He's finished it. And that does change your mindset as a competitor. That ring is right there in front of you. Reach out and grab that golden ring. And so they'll take chances. They will use every bit of knowledge they can to try and finally get that elusive championship.
And Bruce, I believe Jeff King is the oldest to win the Iditarod. He did that in his last win. I think it was 2006. He was 50 or 51, I believe. Paul at 54 years old, can he win it?
I think Paul can,
yeah.
But it's not because he's 54 or anybody can. It's because it's Paul. Works as a contractor. He's in great shape. He told me he's down to 145 pounds of muscle.
145 pounds.
And what does he do for recreation? Oh, he goes packing with horses and goes hunting. And I mean, 54 with a body of probably a 30-year-old.
For sure. For sure, and tough. I mean, Paul is a tough guy, and he claims his dogs are as tough as he is. So time will tell.
And on top of it, he does all the training too. So you know, people go, these dogs have 2,000 miles of training. Well, Musher probably by running different teams has 3,000 or 4,000 miles.
And now coming to the line, one of the real characters of Iditarod today. And say what you want about Hugh Neff, this event wouldn't be the same if he wasn't in it, Bruce.
No, he is totally feels privileged, was the word I'm sure he would use, to run this event and to have fun with it and to try and use it for good cause. Like he's got his hats there to encourage kids to read Cat in the Hat.
All right, we had a chance to talk to Hugh this week. Here's what he had to say about trying to get to the championship.
Last year, 2010, finished.
I think all of us in this room know that, you know, just look at the video. We all know I have good dogs. It's about this kid from the city learning how to put it all together. And if I can lose all the bad traits that I learned maybe growing up in Chicago and harness more of the Alaska traits that I know I'm capable of doing, then I can have a solid finish here and, you know, do something special.
And I know Hugh is very relieved because his great lead dog Annie is back in the team, and she's been fighting through injuries.
Yeah, and he has a whole bunch of pups out of her that he's real happy with. He thinks that's a great bloodline of dogs, and he's got those pups now, so he's got dogs that he believes in. He had a pretty rough Yukon Quest this year, had to scratch, but he led 90% of that race.
And he almost won last year's Quest.
And he almost won last year's Quest. And obviously from looking at these photos, he's not afraid to have fun.
And he's got tie-dyed blankets on his dog.
Yeah. Now you got to ask me what, and you know what?
His cape?
If he wins with tie-dyed coats on his dogs, next year half the field here will have tie-dyed blankets on their dogs.
Hugh Neff can never leave the Iditarod. 9th place last year. and we wish him good luck in 2011. And now Jessica Hendricks, out of Two Rivers, 28 years old, scratched last year, but some top 20 finishes already to her career.
Yeah, and she is a favorite of mine. I think she reminds me, I've said this before, of a young Susan Butcher. She's still in the learning stages. I've raced against her before, and my last Iditarod, I ran with her a lot. She was Rookie of the Year that year in 2003, I believe. She broke into the top 20. She's still gaining all this knowledge, but she has the desire. And what I saw with her as I've watched her is she's got this incredible gift, that communication with the dogs. And she's still learning, and I know she scratched last year, but there's hardly a musher out here that has done this event for a long time that hasn't had a scratch. And a scratch is just a learning experience of what can go wrong. And so she's back, and I take her very seriously as a competitor.
And Jessica, an Alaskan, graduated from North Pole High School, began mushing when she was 9, ran the junior Iditarod, and now about to begin her 5th race with 3 finishes. At 28 years old, you got to figure she's going to be around for a long time as well. And who knows? A decade from now, we may be looking back and watching one of the young future champions of the race. You never know.
I think that's definitely a possibility with her. And it takes a while for young mushers to get established in this. It costs a lot. You have to get a home base. I mean, you don't just get a bunch of dogs. You got to have a piece of land. You got to have a home. You got to have funds to buy all that dog food and sleds and trucks. So.
You know, and I think Mark Boozer is the greatest example of all of that. I mean, he didn't win till 92.
That's right.
His first race was 81.
Yep.
11 years.
Took his time.
Yeah. Let's take a timeout. This is the ceremonial start of Iditarod 39. We're watching it live. Come on back.
The 2011 Iditarod Trail Sled Dog Race from 4th Avenue in Anchorage, Alaska, right after these messages.
We've seen Alaska grow from a territory to a state, from a gold field to a business center, from a frontier to a tourist destination. For more than 120 years, Wells Fargo has been part of Alaska's incredible past. And today, by supporting economic development, culture, and education, we're doing our part to ensure Alaska has just as impressive a future. Wells Fargo, proud supporter of Alaska and the Iditarod.
I love coming to Unalakleet, but I'm usually in such a hurry to get out of here and on to Nome, so it's kind of nice to get a chance to slow down. You know, stop and smell the roses.
Hi, it's Dee Dee. Could you deliver a dozen roses?
In more and more places around Alaska, GCI works. The other guys don't.
Man, I love my GCI cell phone.
Does Anchorage Chrysler Dodge Jeep have the best prices in Alaska? Does Iditarod champion Lance Mackey get excited when he wins a new Ram 4x4?
Oh, the truck! They're gonna look good in silver. Black, blue, I don't care if it's hot pink, I'd be proud to drive it.
The winner's truck, Ram 4x4. Idita-sale priced at just $24,720. The official Iditarod Trail Sale, only at Anchorage Chrysler Dodge Jeep.
Welcome back to live coverage of the start of the 2011 Iditarod Trail Sled Dog Race from 4th Avenue in downtown Anchorage, Alaska. Brought to you by Anchorage Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Donlin Creek, ExxonMobil, and GCI.
You've got mushing and gold mining. Both are really rich in Alaska history. Both are filled with challenges and reward. So for us, it seemed really simple. Plus the fact that the Iditarod gold mining region is near where our project site is. The historic trail is celebrating its centennial this period in time, where the miners took sleds and went down the trail to take their gold to market. And of course, that's not how we're planning on doing it. But we want to celebrate that rich past and embrace the future. And so this just seemed like a perfect way to do that. And we want to really wish the mushers all the best of luck, and we'll see them in Nome.
Karin Hendrickson out of Willow. A one-time finisher, scratched last year, now her third start in Iditarod. We wish her well.
Yeah, she broke her sled last year. That's why she scratched. And she said the whole back end fell out and off as the runners broke, and she was disappointed, but back to see what she can do here.
Well, it's the sound of bagpipes. It can only be one. Here's Waddy McDonald.
Waddy McDonald
from Scotland.
Born and raised in Scotland.
Aberdeenshire, Scotland. Finished 45th last year. Had the time of his life. And you could see last year in Waddy, you could see the addiction growing.
Scary.
Yes, yes.
But he really did enjoy it. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people would go, how can you go out and do something like that, not sleep in the cold and all that work? But some people really do consider this a vacation.
Yeah, they do. And of course, the kilt is on for Waddy. He'll have that off tomorrow when he leaves Willow. But
and I would say, what kind of a challenge is that to prove how tough the Scots are? No one's ever finished this race wearing a kilt from start to finish. That's what I want to see.
What I want to see is one of our camera guys for the Insider, Kevin Bodie. I want to see Bodie wear one of those to Nome. That's what I want to see. And a reminder to everyone, make sure you get those subscriptions at Iditarod.com. We're already posting new stuff up there, and we'll have a lot of things up there today. And of course, throughout the race, we'll have every finish in Nome posted at Iditarod.com. Become an insider. There's Waddy McDonald, 45 years old, finished 45th a year ago, and now beginning Iditarod number 2.
Think he's proud to be a Scotsman?
Very proud. And there's a great roar for him, too.
Yeah.
You guys don't know anything about the Beatles, do you?
And now Michelle Phillips out of the Yukon Territory.
Michelle Phillips at Iditarod 39.
27th a year ago, 42 years old now.
She's a Yukon quester. She lives over in the Yukon. She's completed a lot of Yukon quests. She had to scratch this year in the race that was just a few weeks ago. Last year she was a rookie in the Iditarod, finished pretty gracefully. I remember seeing her out on the trail coming into Cripple, and that's a long, long run with no support. And I asked her, is that a long ways? And she was like, oh my. She was in total shell shock.
Yeah. And the comment out last year with Michelle was, look, I came to the Iditarod because I heard it was warmer.
Right, it got a
last
cold
year
race.
She was nailed with that brutal cold. In Ophir, and then onto the halfway point as well.
45 below when she pulled into Cripple that morning, just completely.
And growing up, she was a competitive figure skater, so you know she's got to be light on her feet driving that sled. And her bio talks of this being an addiction, and that is a common thought that I've heard so often in my days covering this race, Bruce, that and Doug Swingley used to describe it as that vortex, and if you stand too close, it sucks you in. You got no choice. You're in it.
And the hard thing of getting out of it is to find, from past Iditarod mushers that have totally pulled away from this, they've all voiced the same thing. It's hard to find something to fill that void then, that you can be as passionate about. With the community, the areas you go through, the lifestyle, the dogs, it's a difficult thing. But when you're in it, you're just loving it. And there she goes.
Yeah, Michelle Phillips. Good luck to her.
She's even got her snowshoes here.
She does. They've done actually a great job this year, really packing down that trail.
It's a great trail in the street. You know, this is running right down one of the major avenues in Anchorage, and Martin Boozer came up and complimented how well they'd hauled the snow in and packed it down. Really good for the dogs to have that type of trail to be on.
I mean, that was noticeable to me that in years past, just having to walk from where we park up here, it was hard to walk in this, and they've done a great job.
And part of that is the weather conditions are conducive. It's helped them this year. In other years, it's fought them. The temperature's perfect for compacting it. There's a lot of snow in Alaska this year, and they spent a lot of time shutting these roads down and streets down and packing snow in last night.
All the way from New Jersey is Karen Tria. Karen, welcome to Alaska.
Well, here's GB Jones at the line. And interesting story here, Bruce. This is his 7th start He's got 4 scratches and 2 finishes. His last 3 races have been scratches, but yet he keeps coming back.
Yep, yeah. That would be a little unnerving for me to think that I'd scratch more than I'd finish, but obviously not. And he's even written a book about running the Iditarod.
Yeah. And he's 62 years old, born and raised in Utah. Came to Alaska in 1976.
15 seconds.
And he lists his only hobby is dog driving. I mean, this is it. So I guess if you've dedicated your life to it, whether you scratch or not, you may as well come back and keep giving it a whack.
You can see his Iditarider there. She came all the way from New Jersey to do this.
Yeah.
And today we remember a true Alaskan legend, a loving daughter.
Now I noticed up there on Jimmy Jones, every dog's bootied up but one. There wasn't one booty on one dog. Now what?
Why would they do
tougher
that?
Feet?
It could just have tougher feet. It could be that the dog has, you know these dogs so well, you might know that this dog is prone, has a little stiffness in his front end, little shoulder thing, and you can get on this icy road with the snow basin, they might slip, so you might be sacrificing a little bit of abrasion on the pads to protect the shoulder or something else. There's a whole variable of aspects that it could come from, but it could be that the dog's just tough enough it never needs booties.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'd be breeding that dog a lot.
Yeah.
If that's the case, right?
Mike Williams Jr., 26, was born and raised in Alaska.
Is it true there was a time
lived in the rural Alaska
in the early days of Iditarod that feet were just tough enough where you would never have to booty? I know
There's
that's
a lot of dogs that ran the entire Iditarod in the early days with no booties, and people bred for toughness of feet. That was a major thing, and booties have allowed us to not concentrate on that quite so much. As a matter of fact, booties were only put on to protect a foot where an injury had occurred. Now it's used as a preventative measure, and then we go back to Rick Swenson and Susan Butcher and a lot of others that went, it's easier to not have them get a cut on a foot and have to take care of that. Let's just boot them.
And Mike Williams out of Akiak at the line now, and this could be another young and up-and-coming star.
He just about won the Cusco 300 this year, just within minutes of Paul Gephardt. He's a Yupik Eskimo from western Alaska, very proud of his heritage. His father is a Iditarod musher, and I think we're going to see this guy do some serious things in coming years.
Yeah, Mike Williams, 26 years old. He's on his way, and you're watching continuing coverage of Iditarod 39, the ceremonial start downtown Anchorage. It continues when we come back.
Mushing and mining. We share a rich Alaskan heritage of challenge and reward. Donlin Creek is proud to sponsor and celebrate the 2011 Iditarod Sled Dog Race. And proud to be part of Alaska's modern mining industry and its contributions to the economy of Alaska.
With a little help, today's young tinkerers, wonderers, and dreamers could become America's next great scientists or engineers. They just need a little push. That's why the National Math and Science Initiative is so important. It's dedicated to producing 10,000 new math and science teachers so we can inspire today's tinkerers to become tomorrow's much-needed innovators.
Iditarod champion Lance Mackey has now won 4 brand new Dodge 4x4 pickup trucks the hard way. You can win a brand new Dodge truck just like Lance's the easy way. Just call 1-800-545-MUSH or stop by the Iditarod store in the 5th Avenue Mall to get your 2011 Iditarod Winter Raffle ticket today. 20 great prizes worth more than $190,000, including 4 Dodge 4x4 pickups. And thank you for making a contribution to support the last great race on Earth, the Iditarod.
Well, we've been a sponsor of the Iditarod since 1978, and over those 33 years, we've grown that sponsorship as the race has grown. And in 2009, we stepped up to be a principal sponsor with a multi-year contribution of about $1.25 million. But that sponsorship's really focused around the Iditarod education program. It's an incredible tool. It's a web-based tool that reaches out to 10,000 schools across the U.S. and the globe, touches hundreds of thousands of kids. It brings the excitement of the race, the personalities of the mushers, the weather, and most importantly, brings the excitement of the dogs into the classroom. And teachers use that to teach math and science lessons to the kids and leverage that excitement. As a company, our business is all about planning for the long term. That's no different with our community partners. You know, we want to step up with the Iditarod, work with them for the future, build on all the great success they have had, and in particular for that education program to continue to grow that, provide its continued success for the future.
Lachlan Clark beginning his 7th Iditarod. He's got 4 finishes. Born and raised in Derby, New York, and now lives in Buena Vista, Colorado. We wish Lachlan Clark well. And now another contender. Ken Anderson out of Fairbanks, Alaska. 4th place finish a year ago, 4th in 2008, 5th in 2003.
Ken Anderson, 38, born in Minnesota.
Again, another guy knocking at the door. One of these years, Lance Mackey's run will end, and it'll be one of these guys like Ken Anderson that will win it.
Yes, definitely, and Ken's knocking at the door in both the Yukon Quest and the Iditarod. He's done everything pretty much but win one of these races. You know, he started young as a handler, spent time with Jeff King, with the current race marshal Mark Nordman as a handler, learning. I mean, they don't just come out here and instantly do this, but Ken's talked a little bit about his past and how he's learned through the years here.
Yeah, here's more with Ken.
I'm hoping for warm, since I just went through 50 below on the Quest, and slow, because my team is a little bit geared down, and that would be my optimal race, which isn't quite optimal conditions, which isn't what I'm hearing is going to happen, but so many times I've heard trail reports at the drivers' meeting, and then it's just been totally different. I mean, I'm almost to the point where I don't even listen to the trail reports early in the race. You just gotta hope it all comes your way.
1, go! There's Ken Anderson, and Ken talking about the fact that you can't put a lot of stock into pre-race trail conditions. I mean, you got to make adjustments when you get out there and get in them.
Right. I mean, all it takes is a little localized wind over 50, 60 miles to change the conditions of the trail. There's all kinds of things that come up out there, but all these guys are prepared for it. They all want to know every aspect of what's coming for weather, what's the trail like, but then they go, but in the back of their minds, if you have experience like Ken's gained, to go, it really doesn't matter till we get there.
Yeah. And everybody has to go through it. And to win it, you're going to see just about every trail condition there is.
They are. Eventually, at some point, they know everything's possible, but, you know, I think Ken is one of these, he's in this for the long run, and he started he has a young family, and that entails a lot of time and energy. He just recently added twins to his family, and anybody that has kids knows what that means, but he stayed focused, and he's taken this on as a profession, and I think I would put him on probably my top 5 list to be a winner this year.
At the line, another rookie now, Brennan Norton, Casilla, 37 years old. River guide for the last 7 years. He's run the Tustamina, the Sheep Mountain, Gin, the Klondike, and other Alaskan mid-distance races. His first long-distance race. And this race is so different. I mean, even though the Cusco is a really tough race, and these other mid-distance races, Bruce, there's nothing that compares. It's like climbing Rainier versus Denali. There's just no comparison.
There really isn't, and the big part of it is just that 1,000 miles. I remember being out there, and you're going through this little routine that you're just doing time and time again, saying running the dogs for 6 hours, shutting down for 5 or 6 hours, feeding, booting. It becomes a routine, and then finally out there at some point, this realization kicks in that, wow, I've been out here a week. What has everybody else done for a week?
Yeah.
And it's not every musher who's competitive can be competitive that long. And these other races can be tough, but on the other hand, you get to go in usually and sleep at night or after a couple of days. And it's a whole nother animal when you're out there for 8, 9, 10, 11 days.
33 years old, came to Alaska in 2001.
Okay, Sven Haltman, 17th last year, 22nd the year before, 36th the year before that. Sven Haltman, I think, has potential in this event, and I think he got a real education a year ago. He was in contention for a good chunk of this race. I mean, he was up with the leaders for a good half of the race, and then I think he learned that it doesn't matter where you are in the first half of the race if you're not there at the end of the race.
Yeah, a saying in Iditarod is you can walk the first half of the race and then run to Nome, or you can run the first half of the race and walk to Nome.
Yeah.
So he gained a little experience, and you know, as an analogy, he just kind of over-revved the engine a little bit too much. Had a great team and a good run. And he should be proud on how those dogs performed, but he just didn't quite have that depth of knowledge yet of seeing the little teeny things that maybe told him he should have reeled it in a little bit. But there's other people that would kill to finish 17th like he did last year. It's a very graceful, respectable finish, but the thing we know being out there is that he was up and around the top 10 and just had to back off a little bit. So he's a serious musher, moved to Fairbanks. He's moved to Alaska to, again, get involved in this lifestyle.
And didn't he start in the Boozer camp?
I believe he did.
He was a handler for Martin back in the day. And I think eventually Sven will be a contender in this. Bruce, he's got tremendous energy, tremendous zest. He loves this. And he's another one of these guys that I just don't see tired out there.
No, and you know, that is, again, back to this thing of people do these other races, but it's not the Iditarod. That is, like we talk about good feet with dogs or strong appetite, a musher has to be able to function well with sleep deprivation. And he doesn't get tired out there. He seems like he's always friendly and in good spirits, and that's a winning attribute.
And now at the line, Paul Johnson from Unalakleet.
Back from 1986.
Yeah, finished 24th. And his brother Mitty when he ran the race a year ago.
Yeah. I love seeing these guys from Western Alaska. Kotzebue, Unalakleet, it's great country, great mushing heritage. Really where all the great names in Alaska's past history came from. Going back to Sepla and the Serum Run. Glad to see him here.
And what I love is the reception that Paul will get when he reaches home in Unalakleet. There is so much tradition, and Bruce, you can talk about this. When someone from Unalakleet arrives home on a dog team, it conjures up so many images. It's about tradition and culture and history. It's more than Paul's out running the Iditarod. It means so much more.
It's not just a race at that point. It's a cultural part of those communities, and the older people grew up with that, and a pride and a member of their community being in this event. And I can tell you who's going to win the Iditarod in Unalakleet this year. I don't care if he comes in a week later. The winner in Unalakleet is going to be this gentleman right here.
There was a time in the winter where you only came to Unalakleet by a dog team. That's the only way you got there. All right, Paul Johnson, good luck to you. And Unalakleet, he's on his way. You're watching the start of Iditarod 39, live from the streets of downtown Anchorage. We'll be right back with more.
Being a big city gal from Willow, you might think I'd have trouble adjusting when I get out here in rural Alaska. Truth is, I love it out here, especially now that GCI covers so much of Alaska. So I can get away from the Willow rat race and know that my GCI phones have got me connected.
Hey, Dee Dee, do you mind if I take a picture?
No, fine. Paparazzi, they're everywhere.
Does Anchorage Chrysler Dodge Jeep have the best prices in Alaska? Does going downhill with a fast dog team put you more in touch with the winter?
Trade in that old sled for a brand new Journey. It's just $17,920. Awesome Adventures just $20,220. And Grand Caravan Express only $24,970. The official Iditarod Trail Sale only at Anchorage Chrysler Dodge Jeep.
We have been a sponsor since 1994. We provide the communications, as you know. We provide communications across rural Alaska and some of the most inhospitable places that is on Earth. And we're doing that again this year, and it's primarily for the safety of the dogs and the mushers. This year we are doing something a little bit differently. We're carrying your signal of start, restart, and the finish. We're putting that on channel 1 of GCI cable, putting it on ARCs, so that gets into all the villages all across Alaska, which has not been done before. And in addition, this year we're putting it on video on demand. For the next 2 months, you can watch free the start, the restart, and the finish. So if the finish is at 3 a.m., you don't have to stay awake to see it. You can just get up the next morning, get you a nice cup of coffee, and turn on video on demand.
To 4th Avenue, downtown Anchorage, you can see some of the masses that have collected here in the streets of Alaska's largest city to watch the start of Iditarod 39. Kirk Barnum out of Grangeville, Idaho, at the start line now. 42 years old, born and raised in California, began mushing in 1995, and then he moved to Montana to run dogs. And finished 67th back in 2008, scratched in 09, and now in 2011 he's back to give it a shot.
10, 9,
and the countdown is on for Kirk Barnum.
5, 4, 3,
and this is funny. He says his occupation is dog servant. He's a dog servant. Kirk Barnum on his way.
What you are witnessing is a test of will, determination, teamwork, and
That's a good looking shot with that jib arm.
Now joining us.
And now at the line, Kane Carter.
Iditarod, junior Iditarod champion.
His stepdad, Lance Mackey. So, you know, he's got some good team members with him.
Yeah, I mean, when your mentor is Lance Mackey, I think that just pretty much says it all.
Yeah.
You're going to have a great plan to run. You're going to be told to cowboy up and deal with it. Well, you're going to scratch and go home and tell Lance, you know, I mean, how to deal with issues on the trail, and you're going to have good dogs to run. He's not going to. So there's a young musher starting his career right now, maybe.
Yeah, Kane, 19 years old. And I don't know if it's pressure, Bruce, but I mean, when you become part of this family now, you're a part of a long lineage of Iditarod's greatest family. I mean, Dick, Rick, Lance, and then Lance has got other brothers that have run. There's some pressure on this kid to go out there and perform and to get to know him, isn't there?
Yeah, but for a rookie, I don't care who you are, there's no greater success than just simply making it to know him. You may have visions of breaking into the top 20 or being rookie of the year or any number of things, but the measure of success for a rookie is I have to make it to that finish line under the burled arch and know him.
And of course, we'll be watching the progress of Kane Carter, the stepson of Lance Mackey on the Insider, so be sure to get those subscriptions and you'll be able to watch along with us. Good luck to Kane Carter.
I believe he's this year's youngest musher. 19, gotta be.
Probably is, yeah.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I have only 2 words. Rick Swenson.
And the announcement of the arrival from Dave Stroh of Rick Swenson kind of says it all.
Only 5-time champion.
Yeah.
He has won more prize money in this event than any musher running this year. Maybe any musher ever. I don't know that off the top of my head, but he's won over $500,000.
Rick Swenson, 60, born in Minnesota.
There's more with Rick Swenson, our only 5-time champion.
It's my love of dogs. I mean, that's. Sometimes I think, oh, I could not run the Iditarod, but I like running dogs too much to not go through all the training that you know is necessary. And it's just like, why would you bother to have such nice dogs and train them if you aren't going to go out on the Iditarod Trail test them out to see how good they really are, and match them up against the other people's teams. Plus, every year is different, and no matter how many times you've seen the Iditarod, you've never seen it the same twice. It's just like any other outdoor adventure. You can run the Grand Canyon or whatever it is 100 times and it's never the same.
And Bruce,
he'll go when he wants.
Rick Swenson and his 5 titles, can't take them away. I think what makes Rick Swenson maybe as good as that's ever been here is his consistency. 27 consecutive years inside the top 20.
Yeah, and a lot of consecutive years in the top 10. A whole lot of consecutive years. But the thing I know Rick, he's mentioned there, it's the dogs. He just loves sled dogs, and that's what this race was started for, as you know, was to preserve the sled dog. And I would say it's hard to find anyone who cares more for dogs and sled dogs than Rick Swenson. I have the utmost respect for him. Of all the great mushers I've known, there's nobody whose dog care is better than Rick Swenson.
He finished 13th in 2008, and I wouldn't be surprised if he betters that number this year. He's had some health problems the last few years, and he seems to be healthy. He had a bad hip. He seems to be doing a lot better with that.
Got a hip replacement. He's moving better. It took away a lot of back pain. He raced for a lot of years with a lot of back pain. And Rick told me this year, he says, I am going out there to try and get up with those front runners and shake things up. And 5-time champion knows what he's talking about. I mean, if he's given the shot, he knows how to race to win this thing. And I know this year he doesn't want to just go finish 25th or 30th. He's going to be a strong competitor, and wish him best of luck.
Yeah, one of the great legends of this race, and we wish Rick Swenson well. Okay, at the line now, Heather Sertola out of Talkeetna, Alaska. She's got 3 finishes in the Iditarod, now about to begin her 4th race. 33 years old, born and raised in North Dakota, moved to Steamboat, Colorado, and that's where she found sled dogs. And now, of course, she lives in Alaska. A 51st finish, a 52nd, and a 74th for Heather Sertola. And Heather's been around for a little bit now. I mean, she moved to Alaska to handle for Jerry Sousa and Kathleen Holden. And there is pretty good community now out in the Talkeetna area. Mushers, kind of at the foothills or the base of Denali and cold country, snow country, and now mushing country.
Talkeetna and Willow that's another one of those hubs in mushing in Alaska. You've got Dee John Rowe, Linwood Fiedler, Vern Halter, all based out of there, so there's a lot of good trails. And so mushers tend to like to go to those areas because there's a big supportive community.
As we watch Heather Sertola go out now at the line, Robert Nelson out of Kotzebue, 42 years old.
He has a great attitude. His dad has a great attitude. Louis Nelson from Kotzebue. He's just positive attitude, has fans all up and down the trail when he's racing. And so again, here comes some of that Western Alaska heritage. It's dog country up there.
Yeah, he trains with his dad, Louis Nelson, Ed Eaton, John Baker. Haven't seen Ed Eaton in a while now. We're going to see Ed back to the Iditarod. His son ran last year.
Son ran last year. I don't really know what they're doing. I haven't talked to either of them for a while, but it's hard to believe that they've escaped the vortex. I think that's if not, we'll hear a sucking sound soon where they come back in. So.
You know, there was a time as the 2000s began where you thought, well, Ed Eaton's got a real shot to win this thing, and he was right there a lot. And it'd be nice to have Ed back. Again, one of the great guys of the trail, and a guy that's always happy, never grumpy. The conditions never seem to get to him, and every time you go up to talk to Ed, it was great. So nice to get Ed Eaton back if we can get him back.
Well, Robert Nelson is unique in this. You know, people say, oh, these guys are racers and they don't have the outdoor skills. I wouldn't put Robert in that.
No.
These guys that come from Kotzebue know what they're doing. It's a tough environment they live in, and I'm sure he's got all the skills to take care of himself in any kind of situation. They have good dogs, and I wish him the best of luck. I like to see these guys come from the villages and be strong competitors.
Robert Nelson. Headed to the home country.
Now these are dogs that often, if you remember, have trouble in warm weather, and it's nice that it's cooler here. These dogs come out of the Arctic areas, and so this cool weather's great for them.
Sonny Lindner coming to the line when we come back. Ceremonial start, Iditarod 39, downtown Anchorage. Greg Heister, Bruce Lee. We'll be right back.
We'll be back with more live coverage of the 2011 Iditarod Trail Sled Dog Race from 4th Avenue in Anchorage, Alaska, right after these messages.
Mushing and mining. We share a rich Alaskan heritage of challenge and reward. Donlin Creek is proud to sponsor and celebrate the 2011 Iditarod Sled Dog Race. And proud to be part of Alaska's modern mining industry and its contributions to the economy of Alaska.
I would love to have been a musician, but I knew that I was going to need a day job. We actually have a lot of scientists that play music. The creativity, the innovation, there's definitely a tie there. One thing our scientists are working on is carbon capture and storage, which could prevent CO2 from entering the atmosphere. We've just built a new plant to demonstrate how we can safely freeze out the CO2 from natural gas. It looks like snow. It's one way that we're helping provide energy with fewer emissions.
Iditarod champion Lance Mackey has now won 4 brand new Dodge 4x4 pickup trucks the hard way. You can win a brand new Dodge truck just like Lance's the easy way. Just call 1-800-545-MUSH or stop by the Iditarod store in the 5th Avenue Mall to get your 2011 Iditarod Winter Raffle ticket today. 20 great prizes worth more than $190,000, including 4 Dodge 4x4 pickups. And thank you for making a contribution to support the last great race on Earth, the Iditarod.
Welcome back to live coverage of the start of the 2011 Iditarod Trail Sled Dog Race from 4th Avenue in downtown Anchorage, Alaska. Brought to you by Anchorage Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Donlin Creek, ExxonMobil, and GCI.
Sonny Lindner, Two Rivers, Alaska. Again, another legend of this race. Finished 3rd in 79, 2nd in 81. And he's just one of those tough guys, and he's always there.
Yeah, another musher said Sonny's 61 going on 30. You know, he's just in great shape, and probably nobody has more respect. No one's more respected out on the trail than Sonny for his capabilities. He loves this event, and he's walked away from it and come back. He's done a lot of other things, but I'd like to see him do well. He's got a traditional 12-foot wooden basket sled like they used to run in the old days. And
that mustache, kind of a signature for Sonny Lindner.
Yeah. But a great outdoorsman, and you know, I raced with Sonny in both the Iditarod and the Yukon Quest. Just a gentleman on the trail, and just a real pleasure to be around. And very competent.
And that gets us to John Baker, another musher out of Kotzebue, and I think I just counted it right, 10 top 10 finishes now in his career, highlighted by 2 third-place finishes, including one in 2009. 4 times he finished 5th. This is a guy that's been knocking at the door and knocking at the door and knocking at the door.
And actually was standing in the doorway last year, in all fairness. I mean, he was leading the race. He had incredible times, a really strong team, and made one mistake going to Cripple that stopped him a little short, cost him probably 5 to 6 hours. And if you look at the times, he would have been right there at the end with the people competing to win, or basically we're talking with Lance and Jeff and Hans, and he's back again to give it another shot.
48 years old, and the mistake that he made last year, not odd that he made a mistake, it's just odd that he made that mistake. I mean, this is one of the most savvy players in this game.
And that's because of what you were asking before, you know, this southern route harder, and it's in that area of interior Alaska where the country is a lot the same, and he really just being tired at 5 o'clock in the morning, running all night long, got disoriented, thought he'd gone past the checkpoint, which you never want to do, got confused, started in that sleep to sleep-deprived world, convinced himself he had missed the checkpoint and there aren't any big landmarks to see, and he shut the team down when he was only like maybe a mile or two from the checkpoint and lost a lot of time. But John's very capable, very able to handle most any conditions. It just, that shows how, you know, for those of us that know John and how tough he is, it just shows how tough this event is. But it kind of do a hiccup for John Baker, but he's back, and I expect him to be tough.
And I just can't imagine how demoralizing that must be when you've spent the whole year preparing for this race. You've put yourself in position, and you've made a mistake like that. Literally, he was less than 3 miles away from the checkpoint, and it cost him a chance. 500 miles from Nome, it cost him a chance to win.
Yeah, I mean, one little mistake can throw you out of the winner's circle, and it can be emotionally devastating. And I think for John, when I was there working for Insider when he came in, and he was pretty shook up, but he did what any good competitor does after about a half an hour or so, and looking over the situation, he said, well, now I got to figure my way out of this. And, you know, that's that competitive spirit.
All right, Pete Kaiser out of Bethel, 23 years old, 28th last year as a rookie. And a lot of people feel that this is another future generation star.
I do, definitely. Great run in the Cusco 300. I watched his team last year. He finished 28th. I looked at that team coming out of Finger Lake. I remember asking somebody, who is that? Because it just, the team looked so strong, so beautiful at that point in the race. And I would just bet you he's going to be in this for a while. I know he got some dogs from Jeff King, so he's establishing a breeding program with proven dogs, and I think this is one of our future up-and-coming, highly competitive mushers.
All right, Pete Kaiser. And I'm sure Bethel watching this broadcast still this morning. Are we still this morning? Barely, about 8 minutes.
This is Kelly Maxner.
Good luck to Pete Kaiser. And now Kelly Maxner, I hope I'm saying that right, out of Big Lake, Alaska, 35 years old, our next rookie, a dental degree.
Hopefully he doesn't need that.
Dentist in Wasilla.
Yeah.
And he's glutton for punishment, that's what that means.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I think after this trip, it'd be interesting to see what his views are. But, you know, for all these rookies, it's just this great adventure thing. Now, the rookies that come, like you were mentioning, that truly aren't rookies, that have done a lot of other racing, they go out there with dreams of competition, but a lot of them just go in to this event to see what type of an adventure they can have. And that's their reward, is just completing this trail. I think for most people across America, the idea of crossing this trail is just incomprehensible for them, and it's a privilege to be out there. It's not really a hardship for those of us that like Alaska to be out in this country and travel through these villages. It's a privilege.
Yeah. It's the sleep deprivation that makes it really hard. I mean, if you took
Come on, Heister, get tough.
But if you took 2 weeks to go 1,000 miles, I mean, you guys do that in training easily, right? Not a big deal. But when you're forced to do it in 9 days to win with no sleep, then it gets really hard.
You know, if those guys really that are into that sport called golf wanted to have an ultimate event, you would play golf nonstop for 9 to 10 days and only sleep an hour each day. Then they can come talk to me about what a tough sport that is.
Exactly. All right, Kelly Maxner out of Big Lake.
And the pace is fast and furious today at the last great race on earth.
And now Ed Steelstra back in the Iditarod out of McMillan, Michigan. A 5-time finisher, ran in 2009, finished 32nd place, 29th in 2008. And Ed, 41 years old now. And again, one of these happy, joyful, glad to be alive kind of guys on the Iditarod Trail.
Raised in Ludington and graduated from Michigan State University.
Hey, my alma mater.
From Lyman Briggs University, his studies in biology.
Yeah, Claudia Nowak is his Iditarod.
All the way from Michigan. Yeah. You know, I was looking through this list here. There are people that have come up here and bought a ride in these sleds here. Pennsylvania, Oklahoma, Washington, Virginia. Michigan, California, Virginia. Just fans of this race and these dogs.
Yeah, I think for the month of March, you can't do a better thing. You get to come to Alaska when so few people really come to Alaska. I mean, the tourism season doesn't really begin here until May, and the Kings start running.
Yeah, and let's face it, there's a lot of great things to do in Alaska, but there's only two really great things. Winter, so you can tie an Iditarod, and we'll throw in salmon fishing, okay?
I agree with that. But if you want to see Alaska that so many people don't get to see, come
the
here
real
in the
Alaska, you bet, you bet.
Yeah, the highways are not loaded with motorhomes. They're not a more beautiful place in the wintertime than right here in the state. All right, Ed Steelstra, McMillan, Michigan. And Ed gonna take some pictures. Yeah, we wish him luck. He's shooting some video, actually. Okay, Ed, we go to break with Ed Steelstra. It's the ceremonial start of Iditarod 39 in downtown Anchorage. Come on back with us.
We'll be back with more live coverage of the 2011 Iditarod Trail Sled Dog Race from 4th Avenue in Anchorage, Alaska, right after these messages.
The Iditarod Insider is your only source for the most in-depth coverage of the last great race on Earth. Live streaming coverage of the start, restart, and finish.
Wow! 4 in a row!
Up-to-the-minute insider video-on-demand coverage of the entire Iditarod field. Exclusive real-time tracking and mapping of each team on the trail with the Insider's GPS tracker. There's only one source, one place to get reliable, concise, real-time coverage of the 2011 Iditarod. The Insider, only at Iditarod.com.
Texting in the Arctic? No problem. All you need is GCI.
Of course, speaker buttons would be nice too.
For calling, texting, and just staying connected, GCI Wireless works all over Alaska, in places the other guys don't.
Does Anchorage Chrysler Dodge Jeep have the best prices in Alaska? Does Iditarod champion Lance Mackey get excited when he wins a new Ram 4x4?
Yeah! Oh, the truck! They're gonna look good in silver. Black, blue, I don't care if it's hot pink, I'd be proud to drive it.
The winner's truck, Ram 4x4. Iditasale priced at just $24,720. The official Iditarod Trail Sale, only at Anchorage Chrysler Dodge Jeep.
Welcome back to live coverage of the start of the 2011 Iditarod Trail Sled Dog Race from 4th Avenue in downtown Anchorage, Alaska. Brought to you by Anchorage Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Donlin Creek, ExxonMobil, and GCI.
Okay, winding down here at the ceremonial start in downtown Anchorage. Team number 57, James Bardner from Signal Mountain, Tennessee. 62 years old, born and raised in Pennsylvania. He has a BS in chemistry at the University of Miami and an MD in 1983. And he's been practicing medicine since 1990 in Chattanooga. There's no snow in Chattanooga. How does a guy in Chattanooga, Tennessee even get connected to sled dog racing?
I don't know his story. I can't say for sure, but
some of these stories are just mind-boggling to me. Again, he has some dogs with booties, some without.
You know, he actually started as a volunteer in comms working for Iditarod, and then he got involved with Doug Swingley, and then it's that vortex you talk about. Just got sucked in if you're not paying attention.
Well, he's a rookie. He's run the race to the sky in Montana, but he's certainly off now on one of the great adventures of his life. And here's another contender at the line, Jessie Royer out of Fairbanks.
Yeah, Jessie, I thought was going to set out this year. She was even, again, talking about retiring from this totally. I know that she's got another interest, which is ride and shoot. It's a new sport in horses, with horses, of riding by targets at a high speed and shooting targets with black powder weapons.
Really?
And she actually went to the national finals, I believe, last year. So she's competing in 2 pretty strange sporting events. But Jessie's back. I know she's been helping Sebastian Schnull this last winter, which training dogs, and I don't know if she's running her dogs or if she sold a lot of the dogs to him, but I know it's been a big help to have 2 competent mushers working out of one kennel and sharing responsibilities. She's had numerous top 10 finishes, and I have a lot of respect for Jessie as a competent dog musher. Really good.
Yeah, Jessie, a 15th place finish in 2010. Her top finish was 8th in 2009 and 8th in 2005.
And if you remember that 2009 race, she got that 9th place or 8th place position going through a pretty severe windstorm out of Chatoulic. And so she trains good dogs, and she's able to handle really rugged conditions. She has a lot of fans out on the trail too.
So Jessie Royer on the trail, going underneath our camera. And that brings another Smith to the line out of Big Lake, Sim Smith. He's got a top 10 finish, finished 5th in 2009, 11th in 07, 12th in 08, and 12th in 06. Like his brother Ramey, serious, 34 years old, knocking at the door, a contender, and who knows? He's one of these guys that's tough enough to win it.
He is. If he gets up to the front and you've got to race him, you've got your hands full, because he knows how to race. He was Rookie of the Year, his very first running of this of the Iditarod, and he's a very competent outdoorsman and as tough as they come on the trail. And a real gentleman and polite on the trail too, I must say. Really good with the fans, and you got to realize we're saying that with people that have traveled hundreds of miles, that are cold, hungry, and tired, and haven't slept. And it's really shows a depth of character.
Yeah. And that's why so many of these mushers get a pass with me, because I mean, you cannot form any opinions on anybody out here, except for the ones that are happy and polite. And then you know in their everyday life they're off the charts, because if you're able to go through what they go through and still do it with a smile, it's a very unique individual.
It is. It's a person with some depth of character. I'm sure that he has good dogs. He's a very detailed dog trainer. Again, his dad ran the very first Iditarod. So again, I mean, we're starting to see a culture of families and people involved with this through generations now.
Sim Smith on the trail. And now Matt Giblin or Giblin?
Giblin,
we know?
I
Giblin
believe.
Out of Juneau. At the line, 40 years old, but he's got some good dogs, Bruce.
Yeah, I understand he's running Mitch Seavey's second team this year. And again, we go back to that. This sport has become so competitive that for a lot of mushers, they not only go out and race, they send their B team, which means their young dogs, out to have a casual camping trip. Casual 10-day, 1,000-mile camping trip. And that's what he's doing for the Seavey kennel, Mitch Seavey kennel this year.
Talk about how important it is, not just for the musher to get to the Nome, but when Mitch is able to put a team or a dog in his team next year that has been there before, that experience is so important, isn't it?
You know, it is, because it can really be confusing to young dogs on what are we doing here? When are we getting home?
Yeah.
And once they've gained that knowledge that this thing ends, that they begin to learn that routine where, you know, they're not thinking they're going to Nome. They're just going to the next checkpoint.
Yeah.
And so they learn that somewhere up this trail is straw and rest and food, and all these people are going to be clapping and yelling and petting me and telling me I'm great. They start learning that, and That is the building of why these dogs will go this far. It's that bond between the musher and the dogs. You can never break that bond. So what this is about is establishing that bond with these guys. Trust me, I will never ask you for more than you can do. I'm always taking you somewhere. I am the leader. Follow me to this next checkpoint. And once they learn that, then they reach inside themselves and go, let's do this faster.
Matt Giblin on the trail now. And Bruce, is that the most significant reason why you run a rookie team?
Yes.
It's just so that dog knows that Nome is 1,100 miles and not 1,500 miles. Or
that it does. When Mackie says I've got dogs that will go to the end of the earth for me, it's just that he has built that confidence that I will take care of you to the end of the earth. And yes, that there is a checkpoint up here, that Nome is up here. And some of these dogs, you take these veteran dogs right now in downtown Anchorage, they run through their head. I bet you could have these mushers step off the runners and stay here, and those dogs would know where they're going. They'd run down there, jump in a truck, be at the restart tomorrow, and then they'd go all the way there, and they'd get there faster than the record has ever been.
Yeah, and we've both been in checkpoints now and seen dog teams come in without a musher.
Yeah, many times. They don't. Wasn't it Jeff King that said they don't give a rip whether you're on or not? Hang on if you can.
All right, Matt Hayashida at the line out of Willow. And Matt has 6 finishes to his career.
And talk about a fun guy on the trail.
Yeah, another good one.
Big smile.
Yeah.
Now, I understand. You want to hear some Iditarod rumor?
Sure. Yeah, I love that.
I understand that he's running, Jeff King retired, but he kept a bunch of dogs. And I understand he's got a lot of Jeff's dogs out here that are getting trail experience. So that's got to be a good feeling for him.
Yeah, what an honor that would be if the rumor's true. And what does that say about Jeff King's future? That maybe he hasn't given up completely the idea of running the Iditarod.
Let's not even go there. But let's go here. What does that say about Matt if Jeff trusts him with these dogs?
Exactly. That this is the guy that he picked to do this with. A few of those kind of look like a Jeff King dog.
They do. I was just looking at them as they went down the chute here, and they do look like a lot of Jeff's dogs.
Yeah. All right. Let's take a timeout. Matt Hayashida on the trail. It's the ceremonial start of Iditarod 39 when we come back.
We'll be back with more live coverage of the 2011 Iditarod Trail Sled Dog Race from 4th Avenue in Anchorage, Alaska, right after these messages.
Mushing and mining. We share a rich Alaskan heritage of challenge and reward. Donlin Creek is proud to sponsor and celebrate the 2011 Iditarod Sled Dog Race. And proud to be part of Alaska's modern mining industry and its contributions to the economy of Alaska.
America really needs to prepare more young people for engineering and science careers. Fortunately, we already have lots of bright, curious kids right here. They just need a little push. That's why I've partnered with ExxonMobil to support the Bernard Harris Summer Science Camps, where we inspire today's tinkerers to become tomorrow's innovators. Because as someone who's traveled in space, I know just how far math and science can take you.
Iditarod champion Lance Mackey has now won 4 brand new Dodge 4x4 pickup trucks the hard way. You can win a brand new Dodge truck just like Lance's the easy way. Just call 1-800-545-MUSH or stop by the Iditarod store in the 5th Avenue Mall to get your 2011 Iditarod Winter Raffle ticket today. 20 great prizes worth more than $190,000, including 4 Dodge 4x4 pickups. And thank you for making a contribution to support the last great race on Earth, the Iditarod.
Welcome back to live coverage of the start of the 2011 Iditarod Trail Sled Dog Race from 4th Avenue in downtown Anchorage, Alaska. Brought to you by Anchorage Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Donlin Creek, ExxonMobil, and GCI.
And welcome back. Downtown Anchorage, just a couple of teams to go now. 63 teams in all will be out on the trail here this morning and this afternoon. And at the line right now, Gerald Sousa out of Talkeetna, Sundog Kennel, 51 years old, and another nice personality to have up there. And Gerald has had some great stories over the years. It seems like he's had some great moments on this trail.
Yeah, and I'm kind of surprised looking at his bio here. He has entered every Iditarod since 2002.
Yeah.
And he seems like a rookie. I mean, when people have been on here for 20 years, all at once it's like, what do you have to do to become a veteran here?
Jerry Sousa. And our last musher is Justin Savitas out of Willow. Gave it a shot last year, had to scratch, and now he's back to try to achieve his dream of getting to Nome. Team number 63.
And hopefully he will, but you know, since we're talking about the psychology of this event and what it's like to be on a trail, it's a daunting task for a rookie, but now imagine being a rookie who tried it once and didn't make it and you're trying it again. It shows some tenacity, but talk about a rock in your stomach of, you know, you've got to get by that very mile on the trail where things fell apart, and then it gets better.
Yeah. And I think climbers can kind of they can kind of compare their lives to mushing. When you have to quit, when you have to scratch, it's a lot like getting 1,000 feet from the summit and having to turn around all that work, the disappointment. For a musher to put all this work in, you finally get out on the trail and you have to scratch. It's got to be one of the worst decisions in life.
It's a hard decision to make. I mean, usually it's made because you're making it for your dogs, but the musher is ultimately the coach and the caretaker.
Yeah.
And what you feel like is you let your dogs down and you let your fans down.
Yeah.
Because behind every one of these mushers are family and friends that you can't come to this event by yourself. It takes a community behind you to get here, and you feel like you let them down. But I'm glad to see he's back to try it again.
Yeah, and we wish Justin Savitas well. It was Martin Boozer who's always talked about scratching, and that, look, and I'm paraphrasing, you can scratch today and maybe relieve a couple of days of pain, but when you get home, it's going to be 360 days of pain. If you can just fight through it, a couple of days of pain, you'll get through it, get to Nome, and then it's 360 days or whatever of elation. And now, so it is a hard decision, Bruce. Well, here we are, 63 teams out there now, and Lance Mackey has to be the favorite to win. He's got to be the favorite to win until he loses. Agreed?
You got to see a crack in the armor.
Yeah, I know.
I don't see many cracks.
I don't either. And, you know, we made so much of his kennel and his dogs and Larry. Not that they weren't great dogs and they were so important, but I think what I've learned over the last 4 years is that as great as his dogs are, it's Lance Mackey that's been the difference in his wins.
I agree,
his will
totally.
to win.
He's proven that over and over, right out front for everybody to see it by sneaking out of checkpoints, doing unconventional runs. He's definitely the team to beat, but we've just covered a lot of mushers that aren't going to bow down to that without a battle.
Yeah, no, there'll be quite a fight on the Iditarod Trail. Well, we weren't able to get to it early in the broadcast. We want to show you a piece now that's done on Tom Bush, our honorary musher for 2011. Take a look.
A true pioneer. Behind the microphone, the founder of KNOM Radio, the first and longest running voice of the Iditarod sled dog race. Coverage that began with the very first race in 1973. Commentary that continues today.
The first Iditarod was, no one knew what to expect. And as a matter of fact, most people thought it wasn't going to work. And at KNOM, we were the only people who said, you know, this is going to be the biggest thing to hit Nome since Prohibition or the end of Prohibition, so we'd better, you know, prepare for it. So we did. It was fascinating, and we reported on it, and we had no idea what we were reporting. We really didn't have a clue what we were doing, but we wound up doing it anyway. The finish line was was Kool-Aid spilled across the across Front Street, and you know, there was no chute, there was no nothing, and there were just a ton of people, just a ton of people on Front Street, and chaos. chaos when Wilmarth came in.
Tom Bush and his voice will be forever linked to the Iditarod. He was under the Burled Arch in 1978 for the most dramatic finish in race history. His voice captured a moment of confusion and history.
Here comes Dick Mackey, Rick Swenson, they're all running in, they look tired. The dogs look awfully good, they both have their hats off. Mackey's running, oh my God. We have Swenson, the team is pulling up almost neck and neck, and Mackey just stopped at the finish line. Neither of them has crossed the finish line at this point, and I don't know what we're called it. Rick Swenson.
The complication for us at the time was that for every previous finish, including Rick Swenson's win the year before, checkers had required the sled to completely clear the finish line before they would clock them in. Now, according to every finish prior to that, neither team had finished according to what the convention was at the time. And in fact, for a brief moment, it appeared that Rick Swenson had won. And in fact, another reporter declared him the winner, and he let out a whoop, and then it was just a second or two later that Al Crane, the race president, declared that it was the dog's nose, and then that became the precedent for years following. It was a minute of intense confusion. And of course, I'm trying to call it, and I think it was probably the worst broadcast I've ever done in my entire life. We were confused. I mean, we didn't know what to report. We could report what we saw, but you know, what did that mean for the race?
Tom Bush and his voice will live on in the annals of Iditarod lore. A former member of the Iditarod Trail Committee Board of Directors, a fan, and a journalist. The first to tell stories from the trail. A pioneer who helped build the last great race on Earth.
We'll be back with more live coverage of the 2011 Iditarod Trail Sled Dog Race from 4th Avenue in Anchorage, Alaska, right after these messages.
America really needs to prepare more young people for engineering and science careers. Fortunately, we already have lots of bright, curious kids right here. They just need a little push. That's why I've partnered with ExxonMobil to support the Bernard Harris Summer Science Camps, where we inspire today's tinkerers to become tomorrow's innovators. Because as someone who's traveled in space, I know just how far math and science can take you.
I love coming to Unalakleet, but I'm usually in such a hurry to get out of here and on to Nome, so it's kind of nice to get a chance to slow down. You know, stop and smell the roses.
Hi, it's Dee Dee. Could you deliver a dozen roses?
In more and more places around Alaska, GCI works. The other guys don't.
Man, I love my GCI cell phone.
Welcome back to live coverage of the start of the 2011 Iditarod Trail Sled Dog Race from 4th Avenue in downtown Anchorage, Alaska. Brought to you by Anchorage Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Donlin Creek, ExxonMobil, and GCI.
And welcome back to 4th Avenue, downtown Anchorage. Greg Heister and Bruce Lee. And Bruce, this is a ceremonial start. It's a great day to pay homage in both directions. Mushers to fans, fans to mushers. What's the rest of the day like now for a musher once they get there and they unpack?
A lot of them will move out of Anchorage now and get closer to the restart in Willow, which is about a 45-minute drive north of here. They'll start looking at the little details of their sled, getting them packed with all their real trail gear. They'll check over every dog, every detail, every toenail, every foot, and then they'll kick back and have fun and kind of relax. Try and get a good night's sleep if you're prepared, and check the weather for the last time and be ready to be there early in the morning with the game face on.
And there's just so much stress involved in tomorrow, because once you leave Willow, you leave. If you've left it behind, it's not like you can stop, turn around, and go get it.
But you know, for a musher, that's almost a relief in itself, because at least you know how to handle that situation for people that are veterans of mushing. And it's like, okay, now I'm just doing what I'm doing. I'm just running dogs. I left something behind. I got to figure a way out of here. It's like all of the paperwork and ceremonies and banquets and trucks are over. It's just looking down that trail straight ahead. Your focus comes down to 16 dogs, and that's a real pleasure to just get back in depth into that world.
Jeff King is retired. if it's not Lance Mackey this year, who's going to win the race?
You always do this.
I do. I love it. Well, that's why you're here, right?
Hans Gut.
It is.
I'm going to
Hans Gut.
stick with it. He's
Okay.
hungry. He's got nothing else. He's got nothing else to prove. And I've been in that boat, and I did that when I finished second in the Quest. And I went out there that year with that focus of it's win or die.
Yeah.
And on top of it, he's announced this is his last one. If he doesn't win, it will be because something goes on with the dogs. But what I expect, barring something going on with the dogs, to see his best performance.
All right. I'd like to remind all our viewers
Greg,
once again. What?
Who's your pick? You're not getting out of this.
Lance Mackey's going to win.
Okay.
Lance Mackey's going to win. Remind all our viewers, go to Iditarod.com. If you're not an insider already, become an Iditarod insider. We have revolutionized the way that this event is covered. You're going to watch it from checkpoint to checkpoint. Literally watch it. You're not going to be able to read. You're going to see video and pictures, and you will love what you see. Bruce Lee will be out there offering us analysis throughout the race, and we'll be putting up, I don't know, 30 to 40 clips a day. So it's well worth the money, and of course, it helps Iditarod as well. He's Bruce Lee. I'm Greg Heister. We'll see you in about 9 days live from Nome right here. And have a great day, have a great weekend, and enjoy the Iditarod at Iditarod.com.
Thank you for joining us for live coverage of the 39th running of the last great race on Earth. Brought to you by Anchorage Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Donlin Creek, ExxonMobil, and GCI. Please join us tomorrow at 1:45 p.m. Alaska time for coverage of the 2011 Iditarod Restart, live from Willow, Alaska on GCI Channel 1, the Alaska Rural Communication Service, and worldwide on IditarodInsider.com.